Still take a couple of seconds for it to actually click. It should be... No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Yes, now.
There is Skeptic Panel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, how's everybody doing out there? Welcome, Alpha. Welcome, Pio.
How are you?
We're going to have a treat for you today once I get to the video, when I get to the video. But maybe we should see if we can get a few more people in to enjoy the treat with us.
Combo.
I need a sound check from Alpha. I haven't heard it. Don't know.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear you. I hear birds. Who's got the birds? Oh, it could be me.
And I'm still eating. Maybe that's the sound.
Do you hear birds? Oh, I should throw the video up here as well, so you guys can see. All right, are you ready to go straight to the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready to watch. So
You ready to go straight to Darth Dawkins?
Remove the cone.
Yeah, the cone's gonna go. It happens when the before the movie starts or the video starts. Okay, so let me just get this going. Oh, hold on a second. You can't even see it. I mean, the group can't see it. All right. So it's called the main Sherm Show, as you can see.
Oh, it says mini. It means small. Yeah,
something's going on here. I don't know if I have audio from you guys.
You have, but
okay, hold on. I've got to fix up audio. Things are weird. Let's see. I want this to go flawlessly. All right, so everything's good there. Oh, okay. There we go. Maybe my that'll help. Are you ready for Darth Dawkins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is everybody out there in the chat ready for Darth Dawkins?
Yeah. We want the show. We want the show.
All right. Darth Dawkins getting destroyed in 3. Hold on, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Hold on, I'm gonna fix it.
I have to like put the volume up.
No, I'm gonna just go back there and quickly fix it because there's something wrong with something wrong with what I did.
How can be something wrong what you did?
I know. There's always a first time. It's actually not wrong. I just did it. I didn't change the setup from the last show. So if that's wrong, it's wrong. Okay. Let me just make it big, so all you people can see. And then the Discord has to be up there as well, because why not? Yeah, I think so. Just fade that in like that, and we should be ready to rock and roll.
Evolution false, how are you?
Can you raise up the volume of the
I had
video?
a question for True. You seem to have some problems with the biblical narrative regarding the flood. You were saying that inbreeding would have occurred?
What? Why are we talking about this?
I heard you talking about it earlier.
I know, but we're on like something else.
Yeah. Hold on. To atheists.
But to answer your question, more than likely, if there are more people on the planet, then yeah, they're more than likely going to be inbreeding. Okay.
Are you basing that on personal? Are you basing that on current observations of near relatives marrying?
But hold on. Before we go down that path, atheist and the perv. Who called it that would go from religion to politics?
What? But to be fair, you said right after.
That was like ages ago.
I know exactly.
And God damn, I'm hearing fucking echo. Yeah, who's echo?
I don't know.
Evolution false.
It's not me. I have my headphones in, so.
Yeah,
let me mute real quick. See if it's me. Hold up.
Okay, so he's saying you're asking a question about mute your mic because your fucking echo is terrible. Or using earphones or something. Stop muting me. I know it's.
Yes, I thought it was you.
The evolution guy. You're asking me about.
I'm using a headset.
All right, well, cool. You're asking me about personal. This isn't personal because this is what is in the Bible. This is in the Bible. So like, okay, yeah, you do have to mute your mic. You're fucking something. Your echo or whatever. There you go. Thanks. In the Bible, it states that we go from 2 to 4 people, and then all of a sudden we have millions of people who begot this person, who begot this person. So it's not. I don't have any personal. It's just that's what the fuck it is. I don't know how else to look at it other than there has to be some kind of incest going on in some shape, form, or fashion if we did it that way, which I don't think that's how it happened based on how, I don't know, environment and adapting to one's environment works. I don't think that we'd be able to survive.
Well,
Not incesting like that.
Well, what would be the problem if after the flood, some of Noah's cousins married and progenerated? Why would that be a problem in your
That
view?
would be half of your problems. That would literally be half of your. Like, I wouldn't even be worried about incesting at that point. I'll be worrying about the more or less the overall environment and the condition of the environment, and wondering how things are even able to survive. Another point that I'd like to make. Yeah, exactly. Like, how the hell are they going to eat?
You can't eat the animals. You can't eat the animals.
Exactly.
There's only 2 of them left.
You can't eat the plants because the plants more than likely, more than likely they're going to be dead, and if they're not dead, they're going to be poisonous to defend against. Whatever.
I mean, you might be able to see creatures.
Well, I was just curious about what I heard earlier. You said that there would be some type of a problem with the interbreeding, and it seemed that you were referencing a problem with genetics. What were you referring to?
You would have a genetic bottleneck.
Was that your point, True?
Okay, four white motherfuckers didn't give birth to the world, nor did four black motherfuckers. So
well, how do you know that? How do you know that?
Are we really going there?
Well, if someone makes a claim, I'd like to know how they arrived at that.
Can you pause it?
Okay.
Sidney?
All right, fine. First and foremost, you can't have.
So the thing is,
there you go.
So, of course, it says like there were like 8 people, not 4, but I think it was 8 people from this whole the humankind derived from after Noah's flood, right? First of all, we have scientific evidence that if the population goes under 20,000 people, it will not survive. So it's impossible to have a population from 8 people. And then the other evidence that there are some genetic problems. You can see nowadays, if you look up the statistics, where just the cousins are marrying their cousins, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the most people with the highest rate with children which has a defect.
Yes.
Right? And there are just 8, right? And so they have to, first of all, they have to fuck rabbits. Because it took them only, if I can remember, like 1,000 years, and or maybe less than that, and the whole Earth was already populated again.
Wow.
Right? So they have to like fuck and give birth and fuck and give birth, and like not only one child, but like 10 or 12 or 15 at the same time.
And this is all incestuous, right?
Right. So the defects will be great. So I don't understand how Darth can ask about it. And I'm okay. So let's listen like further to it. What argumentation will be. But the facts are that there will be a lot of disease, and it's not possible to populate the whole Earth out of 8 people in this small amount of time.
Absolutely,
which is written in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we carry on?
Yep.
Fucking family members, okay, spreading this fucking. Okay, what's going to inevitably happen? Okay, have you seen American South? Any of that? Like, have you seen the deformities that happens with fucking families inbreeding? More than likely,
I'm quite familiar with that.
More than likely, they're not gonna fucking replicate properly. And what's going to happen more or less is inbreeding is going to cause deformities. These deformities are more than likely not going to be able to continue the human species for much longer. It doesn't matter what fucking 4 family members you start off with. They're not going to be able to continue on, breeding for much longer. It's going to cause more and less mutations, and that's not what's happening with the human species. If anything,
my question for you is,
hold on a second.
You've been talking quite a while.
I know, but I'm not fucking done explaining. So let me explain this, then I'll let you have the floor. All right. More than likely, we didn't come from 4 people. We came from more or less another species that formed a chromosome with another species, which formed us. In which case, those 2 species were already reproducing at such a rate that we are reproducing today. So I yield the floor to you now. You may ask your question.
Are you familiar with the concept of genetic entropy?
Oh God.
Do you know how that relates to the gene pool?
I honestly don't care, because what the fuck point are you trying to get to?
Well, genetic entropy is the idea that as time moves on, generation after generation, small mutations creep in to the gene pool. So
Isn't that what I just got through saying though?
no, I'm not done yet.
Go
Okay.
for it.
Yeah, you did say good to speak.
Okay, so when you have earlier generations from a biblical model of creation, the original gene pool from Adam and Eve and his descendants, and even to Noah and his sons, their gene pool would have been in a more pristine state and had not been subject.
How do you know that? Just like you asked
Okay.
me that bullshit earlier. How do you know that?
Sure, I can know that because when God got done creating, He pronounced everything was good.
And you're still basing it off the no. Wait, stop.
No, I'm not doing this multiple people thing.
I know. That's why I wanted to be
sorry,
between me.
So you're asking me what my position is.
No, you jumped. No. Stop with your bullshit. You jumped down my neck. Asking me
why are you being rude to me?
I'm not being rude to you. I'm very like low tolerance of bullshit these days. That's all
okay.
that's about.
Would you like me to talk to you that way?
I don't give a fuck how you talk to me. This is a free country.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
You're not making a fucking point.
Well, actually, I'm making a point.
Go ahead.
So the thing is, like what Darth just said, like God created everything. So his entropy, this theory is that God made everything perfect, and because of the reproducing, we have a small changes, and we are going imperfect. But that's stupid. So first of all, this is a stupid theory.
Did he call it genetic entropy?
Yes. And so the thing is, right, if everything will be created perfect, because God is the perfect creator, it will reproduce perfectly, right? And because it has nothing to do with sin or whatever, right? They are perfect machines doing perfect work, right? So this is the first point. So his entropy shit doesn't work. Then, if you believe in the Bible, and I think Darth Dawkins is also a young Earth creationist.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
So the time. So if we will go with this theory of him, right, that there is an entropy. So the time, because the flood was according to the Bible, I think 2,700 years ago or something, right?
I'm not sure.
And the Earth was created 6,000 years ago, right? So if Noah will be still the perfect thing, this is his goal, right? To say that the Noah's family will still had the perfect genes, therefore they were able to create thousands of people without the defect. This is how the argument, logical following of it will go, right?
All right.
But if you see when the world, according to him, when the earth was created or the world was created and the flood, we are already more than half of the time through. So his entropy should already been there at Noah's point. So his point too, that Noah should have the perfect genes, right? Does not count. Does not count. It's not sound, right?
Of course
it's already been corrupted, right? And it's like the half of a time where we are existing, right? So they have not the perfect genes, and therefore they should be a lot of birth defects.
Well, you'd think there'd be a lot of birth defects anyway from Adam and Eve, because that's incestuous. There's no getting away from that. And a Noah ultimately would be a product of that. So he can't have perfect genes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So and he's arguing like, oh, God make us perfect. Therefore, Adam and Eve, when they were producing children, there was no so much birth defect, right?
Yeah.
But then it came into the history, so there was imperfection, action. And until Noah's flood, we are at least halfway through where we are now. So they have only like 50% of the perfection of Adam and Eve So they will produce in half of the children they are producing birth defects. But he will claim, or his argumentation goes, no, they were still perfect.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's possible that there were no birth defects. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah. Can we carry on?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm
No, you're
saying
not.
is, in the biblical model of creation, biologically speaking, everything
That is
was
so
in a-
fucking stupid.
Okay, good. Well, let me ask you this.
When did we go from living for 900 years to living for only like what 68 years on average for dudes? How the fuck did we go from there? Help me out there.
Okay. Do you think that the God of the Bible in creation, being that he is omnipotent, would have any problem in designing a world where people live for a long period of time, and then when atmospheric conditions change due to a judgment, people's lifespans would be reduced?
This is the problem with all this horse shit.
I think that's a legitimate question.
Why would all-powerful, almighty God even have to deal with these concepts?
Okay, well, you didn't answer my question. The question was, why would it be a problem for an omnipotent God to create biological species to live for a long period of time? And then when environmental conditions changed, that the lifespan was drastically reduced according to his plan.
Why would God sabotage his own plan?
Well, I'm trying to get my question out, okay? Now, I'll be glad to answer any of your questions that you put to me. Why? What I'm asking you is, you're questioning.
I just asked.
Okay, can I get my statement out, please?
No, because it's so fucking stupid. Just why would he sabotage his own fucking plan like that? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, well, can I get my
question? Oh, I want my creation to live for 900 years. Snap my fingers. No, I don't. This doesn't make any fucking sense.
Okay, so why would that be a problem for an all-powerful God to create biological organisms to live for a long period of time? Why would that be a problem?
The Bible proves God isn't all-powerful.
Okay. Well,
why would he even need to drown the fucking planet? Like what? Oh my God, these people are fucking each other, trying to destroy this city with nukes. It doesn't make any sense.
True. You objected to the very concept of people living for very long periods of time.
I don't object to shit. This is what's in your Bible. This is what's in your fucking Bible. I'm not pulling any of this out of my ass. This is what's in your fucking Bible. Anything that we're talking about right now in terms of like what God is doing is I'm pulling this shit from the Bible. This is what your fucking Bible says. Your fucking God, quote unquote, he fucking intervenes all the fucking time. Job. What was the fucking whole point of Job? To make a deal with the devil to, oh yeah, look at Job. Job is perfect in every single fucking way. You can't fuck with Job in any, no. And then you start fucking with the guy for fucking decades on end. Hey, Joel, I'm just going to start fucking putting balls all over you. Good luck, motherfucker.
Okay, so in order to criticize the God of the Bible, you have to hypothetically assume that he exists. So if you're going to judge,
you know what? It's based off the fucking Bible. Are you fucking stupid? I'm not like when I base Superman's powers, I'm basing it off of fucking comic book theory. It's not real.
Okay, true. Could you tell me, are you in a position? All right, are you in a position, given your worldview, when you evaluate the Bible, to determine what the actual nature of reality is?
Oh God.
No one could determine the nature of fucking reality if we're all basing it only on our five senses. We could be in the Matrix for all we know. We could be in a computer simulation.
Then
we don't
how can
necessarily know. And another thing, in order to top that point, I'm not saying that there isn't a God, but with most atheists and agnostics, based off of the Bible, based off of this bullshit religion, dude, that's where the doubt's coming from. I'm not saying that there isn't a God who created all this shit. The problem is his theory in which you say he created this shit. I would say that this God is more or less like a scientist who understands physics beyond our comprehension. So I'm not saying that there might not be a God out there, but based on religion, based on this fucking antiquated horseshit argument you're trying to form based off the Bible, it's not working, and that's why I'm tuning you out, dude. I don't mean to be mean to you. I don't mean to be rude to you. Well, kind of, but I don't mean to be like super mean to you about this. It's just the fact that, dude, I've heard this shit all before. Okay, it's dumb. It's fucking stupid. Go ahead. I yield the floor to you.
Okay, so is your worldview and your methods of critiquing the biblical worldview fair game for examination, just as you examine the Christian worldview?
How about this? I've been a Christian for 25 years. Okay, most atheists and most people who don't believe in this shit anymore were at one point in time involved in religion. So what other world view are we supposed to get this from other than our own? Yes, more than likely, when I come across another atheist or agnostic person and we start talking about this, we're going to have a lot of different theories about what happened or what's happening in this book. But see, here's the thing. With two Christians, they don't know how to acknowledge that same thing. So when they read the same verse in the Bible, they'll give you entirely two different answers, but everybody pretends like nothing fucking happened. Oh, this is perfectly okay. But it's like you Christians have this set mindset that you have to think like this, or you're not a Christian, or you're not a part of this. And that's a lot of tribal groups in this world. Go ahead.
Okay, so what my question for you is, nobody is neutral when we come to these issues. We all come to the table with presuppositions. I do, and you do as well. Now, what, in your view, would enable you to rationally critique the Bible?
Okay, you're trying.
You know what? I didn't interrupt you the whole time.
I don't give a fuck because this was exactly what you're doing.
I let you speak for a long time. You're interrupting me.
Same fucking thing that you asked 3 times.
You are interrupting
me. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to insinuate that I somehow have some sort of fucking authority over my world view.
I'm asking you a question.
And I'm answering your fucking question.
Okay, well, you're talking over me.
Fucking stupid. I don't give a shit because it's dumb.
Okay.
It's fucking
are you afraid to actually intelligently discuss this? Then why are you getting angry?
Why are you
getting so angry? Ask it to someone else.
Seriously.
Holy fuck.
Seriously. Because true. Never mind the other 8 people in this fucking hangout. It's what you said true. True. What you said bothered me. I don't give a fuck what bothers you.
No, I didn't say it bothered me.
You're
I was asking
about
you a
my
question.
worldview, and
That's
you're trying to gear it as in my authority. I don't have any authority based on my worldview. You think what you fucking like. We all talk. If Atheist Ranger says,
am I going to get a chance to speak?
No, fuck you. If Atheist Ranger says something,
is that how you skeptics play the game?
Sure.
Is your position intellectually
superior? If that's what you want to go back and tell the Christians, go back and tell them that. That's not the reason why I'm cutting you off. The reason why I'm cutting you off is because you're just pure out fucking stupid. You're not making any sense.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Ask someone else then.
Is your position actually intellectually superior?
You've asked this question 4 fucking times already. No!
Answered, Darwin's. Asked and answered.
Was that Darwin's? Was that Darwin's?
Yeah, that was
Holy fucking shit! That was fucking. God damn it! Why didn't you tell me?
That was the same clown that was in my.
I was saying that in the side chat there that this is DD.
Yeah, so was.
You should have spelled it out. Holy fuck! I probably would have been able to plan better or something, or get myself ready, or strap in or something. Fuck, that was stupid.
Please tell me it's not him again.
No, that's a different guy. But he has multiple accounts.
Hello, Gary Rose. How are you?
Did you see this? That was 4 fucking times he asked me the same fucking questions. I'm like, dude, no, it's my point of view. If that's what you want to hear, it's my point of view.
And by the way, for those who are curious of what other accounts he has, that was one of them. Evolution False, Darwin's Deity. Then he has the.
Let me write these down.
Yeah, I better write these down too.
Yeah.
Duncan Dawkins, Duncan Dawkins, Darwin's Deity, Evolution False, and George something.
Just write them in the chat.
There's 2 more. There's 2 more.
I can't do that again. I cannot fucking do that again.
Stephen J. Fould is another one. Stephen J. Fould and.
Yeah, the repeating himself. That's his little MO.
Atheist, is that why you were laughing over there in the corner because you knew who the fuck this was?
Yeah.
So you just
Actually, to be fair, I didn't know until Anarchist told me.
Yeah, and I was wondering why.
Wait, you
no
guys
one
didn't
was
know?
mentioned.
No, I had no fucking idea that
Oh
was.
shit. Yeah,
I finally picked up on it after the 4th fucking time you asked me the same stupid question.
Damn.
You should have asked him.
I was
keep
really
asking him
hoping.
questions back, and he'll just whine like a bitch and run away, anyways.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that somebody was just gonna kick him out at the beginning, because although it was entertaining nonetheless, got my popcorn with me.
Yeah, I got my popcorn too. Like I kid you, I didn't know it was him until Christian Anarchist told me in the side chat. And,
Oh god, I'm glad. I'm glad
yeah.
everyone was fucking enjoying that. I'm glad you grabbed your goddamn popcorn. Now I got to go to goddamn psychiatric evaluation. Thank you.
I'm very sorry. That was my fault. I'm very sorry, True.
True. If you need to talk to somebody, I will be here. And hopefully,
His cock will be open and willing.
Hopefully, if Perverted Demon isn't doing anything to me.
It was like this. This is what it was like. It was like, don't get me wrong. The guy is smart, but he uses. Okay,
he's not.
He
He's
uses.
not smart at all.
Okay, he has a very elaborate vocabulary.
Let's go with that.
Okay. I'll run with that. He has a very elaborate vocabulary. All right, that's very convincing at first, but then when you sit there and listen, it's like, no.
He's
It's like
just
you're
using the
embarrassed.
words.
And it gets worse progressively. That it's like you're the frog in the fucking hot water, and you don't know it's hot, but like over time it's boiling and boiling, and it gets hot, and then you die.
Mhm.
That's how that's how people go crazy dealing with fuckers like that.
Yeah. It was pretty short, and I'm surprised that Darth Dawkins wasn't. It must be an old clip where he
Yeah,
was
this is
still-
2016. This is what I'm trying to say. Even since 2016, he's been known as the clown of the internet.
Yeah, but he seems to be like much more nicer back then.
Back
than he
then,
is today.
exactly. Back then, he wasn't as triggered. He wasn't triggered so easily.
Yeah.
That's my point as well. He's changed. He's become a bigger cunt than he was even then when they were laughing at him, and they were laughing at him. Make no mistake.
Yeah, and for reasons which are true, right? And because immediately he changed, like he changed even in this some minutes. He changed to his script because
Of course
before
he did.
that,
Yeah.
he was arguing about the perfection of God's creation and stuff.
Yeah.
But then he changed to his usual script. How do you know the stuff to be true? How you can make
He always
it,
says that. But you know what I found pretty telling was when the guy was talking to him about the 900 years, and then all of a sudden 68 years. Darth Dawkins, Gary says, well, what's wrong with a God allowing people to live 900 years, but then shortening their life when the conditions change, as if God doesn't change the conditions.
Yeah, that's totally laughable, right?
Yeah.
So if God is affecting everything, why, if he wants to people live for 900 years, why God is changing the conditions?
Why does God change the conditions? Exactly.
Right.
How stupid is Christianity?
Yeah.
Can I mention something?
Yes, please.
This line of argumentation may very well go back to another apologetic, right? So it's one on top of the other. And one of these apologetics that I've heard is that from Young Earth Creationists specifically, let me preface that, that the world back when man's living that long was also the age of the dinosaurs, and the reason why people lived for 900 years before the fall, first fall, second fall, they don't get real specific about that, but they say, oh, mortality came because the atmosphere changed.
Yeah.
That for 900 years because the atmosphere was like something at like 36%, and it's like nuts. It's no, our bodies are not equipped to live and an oxygen-rich environment, that the oxygen that we breathe right now at too high levels will kill us, at too low levels will kill us. This is, right?
Right.
You're talking about the
Right.
balance of life here. And Christians argue that that balance of life changed as a result of oxygen density of all fucking things. And this is why large animals like dinosaurs were able to, you know, move around. Well, there was more air. And they're saying, it's like for 900 years, why? There was more air. Yeah, this is again truly silly, and it just depends on who you talk to, right? Because some of them will say, oh well, this was after Adam and Eve, and the other will say, oh well, no, the fall was really after the flood, you know.
Right.
But
doesn't it seem?
God has come down and rebuked us, you know, measly little specky human beings, and said, no, you're bad. No, you don't know how to behave. You don't know how to listen to me. Bad. You know.
No,
But they said there was only one fall.
Alpha,
right?
are you saying that God created a perfect being, but he wasn't aware of the conditions of the earth, that they will change? So he created something to die out?
Heresy, I tell you. It's fucking heresy.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It really is, because this is, Pio, I don't know if you would agree with me, because of course our public school systems are vastly different, but this is like second level high school biology here that we're talking about. Isn't it? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know.
Yeah, whatever. It's just, it doesn't have to be first, whatever, right? I mean, you're right that this kind of, but when they say that the conditions change, right? They're implying that they changed without God's knowledge, without God's, because he knows the future, right? Then he didn't know. He didn't know when he created the humans, right? That then somehow the conditions would change, and independent of God's will, because if God is creating the world, right, he make the perfect conditions, right? He will not allow to the oxygen go lower and higher, right? Because he is the creator, right?
Right.
So it's stupid to argue, oh, we don't live any longer because we were created perfect, but then without that God was knowing it, or he couldn't influence the oxygen level, right? He was stupid. He created some bullshit which was predicted to die out, right? This is how stupid this argumentation is. Because they don't live any longer, because something changed which was not in ability or out of control of God.
Right. And how does that fit in with God's divine plan?
Yes.
Oxygen levels changing, people's lifespans changing. I can understand the gentleman's outrage as he was just screaming at Darth and saying it does not make any fucking sense.
Yes,
it doesn't make sense in the way we know how science to work. But your point is that because of that very aspect, right? Then it doesn't make any logical sense either. When you consider Omni-God, right?
Mental outlaws in the house.
You know?
Mental outlaws in the side chat. I wonder if he'll come in. Just a thought. Just a thought. I have to go and take care of a cat, so I'm gonna have to.
Oh, I thought you have another clip for us.
I do have lots. I do have another clip, but give me a few. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have another clip, but give me a moment.
Yeah.
And I've got to go take care of the cat. I'll be right back. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
So, Alpha, did you ever talk to Darth Dawkins, like in person? Oh, she's muted. She doesn't want to answer.
How
Tom, we are
how do you
live, by the
talk?
way.
Okay, how do you talk to Darth like a person?
So first of all, there is a way. You have to agree with everything what he says.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to agree. Then you'll be not kicked.
Wouldn't
That's the
that
first
be
point.
talking to Darth like a cook?
No, you asked me for the method, so I'll give you I have to give you the method. So you agree with everything. You say, and you answer fast because he has no patience. You said yes, no, and all the answers has to be that you agree with him. After you went through the 50 or 20 minutes with agreeing with him, then you ask him about Jesus and how Jesus can walk on water.
Is that
And
when you
this,
become a troll?
no, this is where he will start to, because now he had to answer, because you asked you already all these questions, right? And you agreed, no matter what he says, the bullshit what he says, you just agreed with him, just went through, oh, here's how you know the truth, and blah, blah, blah. Everything referring to God, blah, blah, blah. Yes. And you agree that you are a bad person and you are not reliable and whatever. And then you'll go to the topic, do you believe that Jesus walked on water? And this is where you're getting him when you start to let him explain his religion, because this is what he cannot do. He can just argue against you, try to ask you a question. But if you answer all this question and you are really fast, you are not explaining bullshit. You will not explain anything. You will just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. At some point, he will be satisfied. And you have to wait until the point where you can ask him questions. And this will be the moment where he will break down and run away. And this is how you talk.
That's when you become a troll.
Yeah, then you become on his list.
Right. You get into his little black book. What I was going to say, Pio, and I'm sorry my microphone was muted earlier. I was just yielding the floor to other people that wanted to talk. Was I have never tangled with Darth Dawkins, and I don't think that I have much of a chance, because from what I've seen, as far as the recorded leavings that have been left all over YouTube as to, you know what I mean, what he does, there are very, very few women that get much of a chance to get past him, because he tends to really provoke women and then immediately start in with the gaslight and the ad hominems. And since women are not, well, in America anyway, are not really considered part of a privileged class, it just means that he has more arrows and more daggers to attack you with than if you're male. I mean, I think you've noticed he also uses age as a huge factor as to experience,
he will ask you, how old are you? And stuff like that.
Demand it, right? And one of the best debates I've ever heard was when the guy was literally the exact same age to the year that Darth was. That Darth really, and he was also super polite. So this means that Darth was completely disarmed. He did not really know what to do with this guy. And he had almost a 30-minute long entanglement with Darth, which, as far as you want to just look at raw time, that's quite a bit, right?
That's big. That's big stuff. Even I have to say, I did it longer.
Yes, I was just going to say, Pio, that when you interacted with him, you got an even longer interaction than the gentleman that I was referring to.
It took me 4 tries to get there.
Yes,
so
yes.
The first 3 I was kicked after 5 minutes. Right?
Right.
The only thing how I get to my conversation for 45 minutes, I was trolling him in the chat. I was saying stuff in the chat like, oh, no, he's not believing the stuff he's talking to you. And he is just pretending. He's not a Christian. He doesn't believe in his God, blah, blah, blah. And then because this was the only, because I tried it before. It was nice stuff, right? And I didn't get my time. But then after that, he was like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" Blah, right? And of
Yes.
course, at the end, I was kicked because then he like looked me up and he saw that I put parts of some videos which were talking real shit about his family, and I was not creating that. I was just repeating the stuff, right? Because he
Correct.
accused me. I just make the video where Sidney and Godless Godless Girl and some other people ranting over him for 45 minutes, and he was not able to say anything. And I took parts of this video and put it in another video and put it on my channel. And then he, like, within my talking to me, he found it out. And then I was banned. And since then, I'm banned from for deforming his persona. Right?
Oh, because you ascribe to that satanic skill of video editing, where you can actually go and remove sections of what he said and show what a lying, hypocritical, contradictory, contrarian type of person he is. With the, I mean, how many thousands of times have we heard, "I never said that. I never said that," and you know damn well, that you heard the exact words, right? On some other interaction. So, yeah,
he has a script and he has his minions, and I think he's the most funny stuff I ever heard. I was talking to somebody, I cannot remember who, talked several times to him, and I'm really angry that I don't have this clip anymore. He was talking to Darth Dawkins, and then you hear like doors opening, and somebody says, "Dinner is ready. Come. You have to come now." Like in the background, but you can hear it, right? And then Gary says, "Oh, I have an appointment now. I have to leave for 15 minutes."
He says, "I have a dinner
Yeah.
engagement."
Yes,
No.
he has an appointment with a hot pocket and a bowl of microwave SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, which his mother just hacked into the microwave.
Right. It's like he is living at his mom's basement, and he has to do what she says. That's why he has this hatred. It's like the whole family left him. He has no family anymore. Everybody hates him. That's why his only purpose of life is being online and trying to mentally rape other people who are not his opinion, and to cheat all the minions who are following him because they're saying, "Oh, you are great, and you give us all these great arguments."
Well, that's why in these debates that I'm showing you, which is a debate between adults, and he gets so destroyed every time. That is why he was relegated down to the teenagers and the weak-minded who he deals with these days. Anyway, I do have another video queued up. If you want to get into it, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to know if Mental Outlaw is going to come in or not. If Mental Outlaw is still even watching.
No, he's not.
Isn't he?
He's dead.
Okay. The voice of God has told me that Mental Outlaw will not be joining. Welcome, dude. How you doing?
I'm kind of okay. I'm actually I'm not doing that great. Did you see what YouTube did to my name? They raped my channel.
No, I did not. What happened?
They left a scar. You see that thing next to my name in your chat?
Yes. What is that? I was gonna. Was that them putting that there?
Yeah, I don't want that shit there.
Why did they put it?
I don't get it, man. They banned me for a week, then they banned me for 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden I'm verified. I don't understand this platform, man.
Listen, as long as you stick to hard atheism, they're not going to touch you.
Atheism. I'm an evangelist. You see it right there in my name.
This is true. I do know, and I've actually seen your evangelism at work, because you were influenced quite strongly by. I wish I could remember his name, Father. What was that influence on your life during the secular TV days? When you used in your garage, you used to stand up and you used to dress up and this pastor, maybe it was a pastor or something or other, I can't remember.
Well, I mean, back when I used to do the skepticism and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Influence? Well, I kind of take a lot of points, or I should say took rather, a lot of points from George Carlin. I mean, I think anybody who does atheist content is halfway funny does.
Yeah.
You know, like I said last time, my whole reasoning for doing it was kind of like political motivations. You know, my what is it? I guess sowing the seeds of skepticism is done now. It's at a point that I think is good. But you still have work to do, right?
I got a whole planet to convert. Jeez.
Yeah, you want to convert people. You want.
I'm don't want to convert. I want to create. I want to create atheists out of nothing.
Yeah, you don't want anyone to believe in gods anymore.
They can believe in gods, but they just have to accept that their denial of reality, in that all gods are imaginary. Believe in them all you like, but accept that they're imaginary. Because they are.
I'm fine with you know, people thinking imaginary stuff is real, as long as it doesn't affect me.
Well, it does affect you, because as long as people think that, then churches get a tax-free break.
Yeah, I think everyone should get a tax break. I don't like taxes either. I might start a church just to not be taxed.
Right. This is the solution, right? Let's make a church of... No, this church already exists. There is a atheist church movement.
All churches in America are
No. I'm not making an atheist church. I'm making a free software church. We're going to preach the word of free software, and using proprietary software is a sin.
Well, how about let's tax all churches?
How about we listen to Darth Dawkins' take on Ozymandias?
Taxes are the big gay. I don't like taxes.
I prefer Texas over Florida.
Why?
Because Florida, as bad as Texas is, I think Florida is 10 times worse in terms of the craziness.
You don't know what you're talking about. Florida has lower taxes than Texas.
Florida has crazy people.
They don't have state income tax.
Florida has crazy people. Texas has...
Florida doesn't have an income tax.
Florida has crazy people. Texas has Austin.
I'm not so sure if Florida is crazier. I mean, the whole reason for the Florida man phenomenon is just because the moment that something happens in Florida, it becomes public record. Whereas in a lot of other states, like if I commit a crime today, it might be a couple weeks before you're able to hear about it.
Yeah, but I live in the Pacific Northwest. I don't give a fuck about crime in Florida, but all I hear about is crime in Florida. I mean, because of the bizarre nature, of the kind of crime people commit there. They're fucking
they're talking
crazy.
About this gay transgender thing in Florida recently, but otherwise, Florida is pretty stable, man.
That's violent.
No, you're thinking about Chicago. You're thinking about Chicago or...
Yeah, East St. Louis, I think, is the most violent city in
America.
Like
I'm watching the wrong cops.
Louisiana's bad.
I'm watching the wrong cops clips. Cops videos. Real cops. The channel and
NCIS. Yeah.
They just don't like Florida because it's conservative politics, Sidney. They don't like conservatives.
Who doesn't like conservatives?
The media propaganda machine.
I see. Well, I still think that that's irrelevant. We got to get on to Darth Dawkins versus Ozzy. This is
Yes.
probably a good one. It's only 12 minutes long, so it's not going to keep us for too long. Shall
I
we?
don't know, but Darth's part of the problem.
Exactly. Well, let's see if we can get through this 12 minutes clip. Ready? Ah, yeah, ready.
Watch this.
So you're familiar with Romans 1, Ozzy?
Yeah,
Are you familiar with it?
I am. Yeah, I've actually read the
Okay,
Bible.
good. Has the Christian God created a set of circumstances?
I wonder if
by
I
which
could
we know he
make the
exists?
point that I interjected with.
Yeah, go ahead, Ozzy. I
Thank you.
apologize. Go ahead.
Thanks. You can posit a God that's as powerful as you like, any God. It can be the Christian God or another God. It doesn't matter. If you posit a God that has the ability to by virtue of its omnipotence, to persuade anybody, that being could presumably persuade you of anything. God could just monkey with your brain and make you believe anything, including a falsehood. So the question is not whether God could persuade you of something, but whether he could rationally persuade you by means of providing evidence. And
yes, correct.
On the table is, what could such evidence be? You can posit God could give you evidence, but wait a minute, what's at issue is whether or not there would be evidence of the existence of this God and its omnipotence, absent some understanding of what constitutes evidence. And what Jack has been doing is saying, listen, the concept of evidence is crucially tied to the concept of falsification. If a proposition is put forward that is unfalsifiable, then we can't state what the conditions of verification are for it, and we can't state what the conditions of falsification are for it. These two go hand in hand.
Okay,
So
Ozzy, but you're just talking about the
I'm just going to
evidence.
finish the point.
Okay.
If you cannot specify what the conditions of falsification are for your proposition, how are you going to specify what the conditions of verification are?
Okay. So where I agree with you is you're simply talking about the apprehension of evidence. Now the bottom line is this.
No, what
I'm
constitutes
not talking about any God. I'm not even talking about any God that has certain attributes. I'm talking about as the Christian God is defined and described. Now in Romans 1, the Christian God is defined and described as having made a set of circumstances by which we know he exists. Now, either you accept or you reject that an omnipotent God, such as the Christian God, can create a set of circumstances by which we can rationally know that he exists.
That's not the question.
Okay, now, I'm talking to Ozzy. I'm not talking to you.
That's not at all the question. The question that's been put to you for like the last half hour that I've been watching is, how can you have an account of evidence that doesn't crucially incorporate the concept of falsification?
I believe that there can only be
posit the being that you're talking about when you can't even imagine a condition that would falsify the very possibility of such a being.
Well, the Christian.
If you think it's necessarily true, then you need an a priori argument.
There are ways of falsifying the Christian God.
I agree, actually. I think there are ways of falsifying the Christian God. I think the Christian God is falsified with that.
Does it say in Romans 1 that the Christian God has created?
Did you hear that? There are some ways of falsifying the Christian God, he said. Did you hear that?
I just heard from Ozzy the good thing. Like
Okay,
the
I'm gonna go
question
back.
was
Yeah.
that if there are no ways to falsify a claim, then you cannot even have evidence for it.
Yeah, but Darth said there are ways to falsify the Christian God. Did you hear that part?
There are ways?
That's
I
what he
didn't
said.
hear that.
Ah, listen.
What?
There are ways of falsifying the Christian God. I think the Christian God
but
is
Ozzy,
falsified.
Oh, for me he says no, but let's
Okay,
say
hold
it
on.
again.
I'll go back a bit.
A condition that would falsify the very possibility of such a being.
Well, the Christian.
If you think it's necessarily true, then you need an a priori argument.
There are ways of falsifying the Christian God.
See?
I agree, actually. I think there are ways of falsifying.
Maybe he's trying to make it scientific. Isn't that like one of the base requirements for a scientific theory? It has to be falsifiable.
Let's see what he comes up with.
Romans 1.
Can you repeat it for Foss, because I didn't hear you
Go
clearly?
back. Sure.
No, what Foss says. I didn't hear him.
Oh, I was saying if he's trying to say that if the Christian's trying to say that there's a way to falsify God, then maybe the angle he's going for is to try to make it scientific. Because in order for a theory or like a claim to be scientific, it needs to also be falsifiable. There has to be some way to like prove it wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
There are ways of falsifying the Christian God. I think the Christian God
but
is
Ozzy,
falsified.
Does it say in Romans 1 that the Christian God has created a set of circumstances, namely the creation, by which he can demonstrate through our experience and our visual apprehension that he exists? Does it say that?
It says that's done, but I just don't think that's.
Does it say it in Romans 1, sis?
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's some stupid bullshit.
It's true. I think that.
Okay, Ozzy, that's another. Okay, I agree with you there. I'm not asking you that you accept that that's true, because I understand that you're an agnostic, right?
I'm an atheist, actually.
Okay, because I watched you on another video and you said you were an agnostic.
No,
Darwin said that he thought that the Christian God would be
so
falsified.
if the Christian, so Ozzy, if the Christian God exists, would Romans 1 be true?
If the Christian God exists, and you assume that the Christian God is accurately represented in the scriptures, which is another proposition.
That would be included in that
well,
assumption.
no, but now hang on. Now what you're doing is you're defining the Christian God as being the author of those passages, and of course that is dubious.
Included. Yes.
Well, that's dubious.
There's something getting lost here.
So Ozzy, if the Christian God exists as he is defined and described in the Old and New Testament, as is traditionally understood by Christian theists, okay, and being that he is omnipotent, can he provide circumstances?
There's no definition of omnipotence provided in the Bible. So even the claim that God is omnipotent is vacuous. I mean, there's so many definitions of omnipotence on offer.
Ozzy, so you're telling me, you are telling me that the majority of theologians do not, who subscribe to the Bible, do not clearly teach that the Bible teaches God's omnipotence?
They teach that he's omnipotent, but different theologians differ on what the meaning of omnipotence is. I've got an entire video on my channel that discusses various versions of omnipotence.
Okay, but you see, that's another rabbit. That's a whole other subject. But the fact.
No, but your argument rests on God being omnipotent, and you haven't even specified what you mean by omnipotence.
Okay, well, I'm talking about God can do all that's logically possible and accord with his own immutable nature.
Well, that's vacuous.
That's vacuous because his own immutable nature is not defined.
But it's kind of beside the point, though.
His nature is defined within the Bible. The Bible defines and describes his nature. So this is a rabbit trail issue.
This is beside the point. All you're doing is not answering the question.
God is all powerful. If God is all powerful, as it is referred to in the Bible, setting aside differences to what extent that is, can that God create a set of circumstances by which we can rationally conclude that he exists? Yes or no?
I have no idea, because I have no idea what omnipotence means. I have no idea what this nature is. That's not specified either.
He's able to organize all circumstances that are not logically contradictory.
That's not addressing the issue. You keep turning you're burden shifting. You keep asking the question, if God is omnipotent, couldn't he do this thing? What's at issue is whether or not the concept that you are embracing here is in fact an empirically verifiable or disconfirmable proposition. You're not specifying.
What's bizarre, Ozzy, is he just said that the Christian God could be falsified. So I'm not understanding any of this. If Christian God could be falsified, excuse me, I wasn't done. I wasn't done, Darwin. I wasn't done. Yeah. So if the Christian God could be falsified, I'm not really understanding why Darwin's deity isn't presenting the criteria, which would disconfirm the Christian God and showing us how, in fact, the Christian God entails certain predictive expectations that could falsify it, right? Because he went through this whole thing about how the Duhem-Quine thesis shows that things can't be falsified, right? In which case we don't understand how there could ever be evidence against anything, right? If it were the case that the Duhem-Quine thesis showed that nothing could ever be falsified, I don't understand how there could be evidence against anything, right? And he then went into this whole thing about how the falsification criterion was overthrown in the attacks on logical positivism. But now, all of a sudden, a surprise to everybody, Darwin's deity announces that the Christian God can indeed be falsified. Right? So why are we even having this discussion? Just
just
tell
specify.
us.
Yeah,
Just
tell us.
specify what
Ozzy,
conditions.
so Ozzy, you're hanging
Excuse
up
me,
now.
I wasn't done.
Okay, well,
Darwin.
you've
You'll
been
have
on
to
the
wait
mic
a
quite
minute.
a long time.
You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait.
Well,
one
wrap
more
it up quickly,
You'll
stalker.
have to wait one more
See,
minute.
Ozzy, what you don't know,
Darwin, you're
Look, I don't care about the politics between you. I don't care about the politics between you two.
Yeah, well, you're hogging the mic and wrap it up.
I need another
Wrap
minute.
it up, phony.
So what we're waiting for is for Darwin's deity to provide for us, right, the conditions under which the Christian God hypothesis would be falsified, and show us exactly how it is the case, right, that a given set of observations would be inconsistent with the existence of the Christian God. So go ahead, Darwin.
So Ozzy, your big hang up here is that
is that you're not answering Jack's question.
No, I don't answer Jack. Jack is a well-known stalker.
I'm asking the same question.
Okay, good. Well, I don't answer questions that.
He's just dodging. You see how he's dodging?
Yeah,
this is how disgusting he is.
Oh, that's not dodging. That's flailing.
Flailing. Nice word. Like it. Oh, let's see how much he can flail before he drowns.
That he originates with, because he's a well-known stalker of mine.
Oh, wait.
Now,
You're not going to answer the question that I have.
Ozzy, I guess you're not aware of the previous history. Jack,
I don't care about your history with this fellow.
Okay, good. Well,
I don't know either of you. This is my first time speaking
I'll explain
to
it
either
some other time. Ozzy, I'll be glad to explain it to you some other time. Now, you raised the issue that you said you didn't know about how we defined omnipotence. Now,
that entire discussion is a red herring. I simply
no, it's not a red.
What do you think are the conditions of falsification?
Because if we come to an agreement, Ozzy, it's not a red herring at all. If we come to an agreement as to what omnipotence entails, and if it falls within that definition of omnipotence, that the Christian God can create a set of circumstances by which we can rationally conclude that he exists, then by virtue of that omnipotence, we can have evidence for God. Okay,
well, in principle, but a lot.
Okay, good. So your big issue
then. Questions that would have to be answered yes, and I doubt many of those would be answered yes.
Okay, so
but
your big
simpler question here. You just said that the Christian God was falsifiable, and you've been asked by Jack, and now I'm asking the same question. That's why I entered the hangout. Could you specify?
Sure. You finding the dead body of Jesus Christ.
Why would that show?
Why would that do it? What would that do? How would that be outside of God's omnipotence?
I answer. Well, you said the Christian God, not his omnipotence. Now, the big shut up, Jack. I'm talking. I'm responding to Ozzy. Shut your mouth. Shut your fat trap, Jack. Shut your fat trap.
Could the person who's in charge of shutting people up be the moderator instead of you, Darwin's?
MK is well aware that this guy is a mentally ill stalker, Ozzy, and I know I understand you're not aware.
We're done, Darwin's. We're done. You're determined not to answer the question, and there's
no.
Okay,
guys. Yeah, I'll moderate. Let me step in. Let me just step in here. Okay. I muted you, Darwin's, because it was getting off course.
No, I understand. Well, this is what happens when the stalkers come in the room. Okay.
We're just trying to get an answer to the question.
He absolutely is terrified of Jack Anstrife. Hates him. Terrified. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And what you've got going on right here, MK, is he's pretending to be normal. Okay, he's not normal. He has been identified on Pal Talk by his fellow atheists as being mentally ill. He has been chastised repeatedly for having an obsessive stalking. It is well known on Pal Talk that he is a stalker of mine. Now what he's doing is he's playing cool, calm, and collective and not pulling his normal sense. MK.
Good. Well, I guess we all can't be perfectly mentally healthy and perfectly normal.
Christian God can be falsified, and if we found the dead body of Christ, that would actually show that the Christian God didn't exist. Right now, I'm not seeing how if we found the dead body of Christ, that would show how the Christian God doesn't exist. He hasn't explained that. But if it's the case that it would show that the Christian God didn't exist, then I don't understand why he would make an argument that things can't be falsified, if he thinks, in fact, the Christian God can be falsified. Now, even if it were the case that he does think things can be falsified, and he does think that it's possible for there to be evidence for the Christian God by virtue of the fact that it's falsifiable, right? He hasn't actually explained to us what would count as evidence for the existence of God, right? So we're just completely at a loss here, Darwin, to understand your position. On the one hand, you seem to be arguing that the Duhem-Quine thesis shows that things can't be falsified, and then you're saying that the dead body of Christ would falsify the Christian God. So what is your position? It just seems to be a mess.
That's that one.
Yeah.
That's that was pretty powerful.
So, one thing I wanted to say, because Darth engaged in a special piece of gaslighting there, is he called Jack mentally ill.
Yes, yes, he does
I
that.
believe that Jack and I have something in common. We both have processing disorders. Processing disorders are not mental illnesses, nor have they been classified as such for a very, very long time. So to say that somebody has a processing disorder like autism or dyslexia, this does not make that person either crazy or stupid. In fact, some of the most superhuman, intelligent people that we've had in our history, right, have actually had processing disorders. So it makes them far from crazy or stupid. They're neither. They literally see the world in a different way.
Yeah.
And some people can take that processing disorder and actually use it to their advantage. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, but in fact, what Darth was doing, he was just playing another card because he was not able to answer the question. That's why he went down the other road, right? Instead of answering the question about their falsibility or whatever, right? He went down, oh, this guy is a stalker. He is mentally ill, and he was declared mentally ill by other people, right? So this is like dodging again questions.
Oh, I never meant to imply that he wasn't dodging. I was just I was digging in deeper into the nature of this dodge because this sort of miscategorization is something Darth. It's kind of unique to him and to his cronies. They weaponize it, and you know, it's not just goalpost shifting, right? They use other forms of weaponization and miscategorization to attempt to tear their opponents apart. But as Pio wisely just observed, that it's all just to take attention off from the fact that he's flailing and he can't answer. So he has to go over to this other thing like, oh, I'm not going to answer this person because he's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, round two.
Talking about round two, I have a round two queued up. You want to see what it is?
I just seen it round two. That's
you are such a smarty pants.
Darth versus the nonce. The nonce.
Darth versus a nonce. So it's Christian versus Christian. One of them is a nonce, and one of them is worse than a nonce. He's Darth Dawkins.
Right, and they're both virtue signaling at each other.
Yeah. So if you'd like to get into this one, we can let it run for sure. Hearing no response, I will wish everybody a good night. Thank you for watching. Okay, I'm just kidding.
My ass. Start that shit.
Right, let's go.
Well, the presuppositional position is actually quite simple. Okay? The position is, what is our final authority? Okay? Either our final authority and foundation will be the Christian God, or it will be something else. And that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, hey, Matt, you want to do a mic check? Matt, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you. I know sometimes you ask to do a mic check. Yeah. So, what's up? How you doing?
Matt's an evidentialist.
Doing okay.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Matt. I wanted to, in the moment, back when you and Dee Dee had that chat like a few days ago. I didn't comment on it, but just to give you my personal opinion, like I don't. Can you explain why, in your opinion, the presuppositional Christian thing is kind of like dead in the water?
Yeah, because I mean, it depends what you mean by dead in the water. It's obviously a live thing for presuppositionalists, but that's the only group of people that it can ever have appeal to. It can have no appeal whatsoever to any rational atheist or non-believer or non-Christian. They don't accept the Bible or the Christian God as the final authority. That's what they reject. So to come in and say, hey, here's our starting place. The Christian God is the final authority. They say, well, no, that's not working for me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Hey, but the way I view it,
comment?
You mind if I just say something real quick?
Sure.
Okay, appreciate it. Just real quick. I think that, okay, so I hear what you're saying, but the way I view it is, it doesn't even need to be a believer that offers the Christian presuppositional thing. It could be an atheist who's just hypothetically talking to his atheist buddy and saying, hey, if there's a being out there, then hey, we might be in a jam.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can present, I mean, the atheists will accept that. If the Christian God exists, then they're in a bit of a bad situation. But that if is what needs to be established. As long as it's just an if, they're just making a hypothetical and saying, okay, yeah, we've had a nice chat, but of course that God doesn't exist. So we're not in a pickle, we're not in a jam. We got no problem. That God does not exist. And they will then present reasons why that God does not exist, like the argument from incompatible properties or the argument from Eve. So they're providing reasons, evidentiary reasons, for why they assert that the Christian God does not believe. The presuppositionalist is just saying, hey, I know, they're saying, I know you want evidence. I ain't going to give you evidence. I have this presupposition. You need to accept my presupposition. The very thing that they reject on evidence, the presup is saying accept it or no evidence.
Right. Hey, real quick, let me just.
So I'd like to respond because actually it was.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Do you mind if I just say one more thing and then I'll just be quiet for a while? Just real quick. Do you mind, please? I want to clarify what my initial statement was. Okay, by in a jam, I mean that they would be in a jam because they can't even use their reasoning anymore if it were the case. That's kind of to clarify what I was trying to say. Thanks.
Yeah, but that's incorrect.
Yeah, no, it's my turn to speak. In fact, you interjected when it was my turn last time, so I'd appreciate that you allowing me to speak when it's my turn. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Matt made a number of errors in the things that he said. First of all, he said that it doesn't appeal to
Can we switch streams or something?
Unbelievers. Well, I don't know where we're just to appeal to.
What's that?
Oh, we're watching a stream. Okay, I was confused.
All right.
Unbelievers.
Well, check out the gospel sometime.
To make something appealing to. Excuse me, I'm speaking and you're interrupting me, and I would appreciate that you're not interrupting me.
I just wanted to say.
Okay. I would appreciate that you would have a civil.
I just wanted to say real quick. Let's take turns. I think that'll make everything go smoother.
Well, that's exactly what I was doing, and I had requested to speak, and you said, "Can I make a comment first?" And I said, "Sure." Then when you got done with your comment, Matt usurped my turn, but I didn't say anything. I waited till he got done speaking for a while in order to take the turn I was supposed to have, and then when I began speaking, he started interrupting me, and then he started cursing me out. Right. So I'd like to continue. Thank you. Okay. Matt says it doesn't appeal to unbelievers. Now, we are to speak the truth of the Word of God to unbelievers. But it doesn't say in the Bible that we're to present something that is, quote, appealing, as though we're presenting a product that we're trying to sell. So that's Matt's first error. And he said, well, they don't accept the Bible as the final authority. Well, what Matt is then having us do is we're going to put God on trial, and we're going to appeal to the unbeliever based upon his final authority.
10
Well,
seconds.
his final authority, the unbeliever, is his own mind and reason, for which he cannot assert or reason that anything is the case. So what matters.
Yeah, mute him.
Okay, Matt. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, that's just.
Go ahead, Pio.
No. I was just right, because he told Darth, you have 10 seconds, and he was going on, and he muted him, and my comment him, well, yeah, mute him.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make one comment as well about, do you remember when Darth said that atheists are worse than pedophiles?
Yeah.
Well, I think he's giving some kind of a reverence to Matt Bell, because Matt Bell's a pedophile, and and obviously Darth Dawkins seems to have some respect for Matt Bell as a fellow Christian, and he has no respect for atheists. So atheists are worse than pedophiles.
Well, doesn't the Bible like justify it in kind of a indirect way? Like, isn't there something, I want to say in Exodus, where it's like God talking to Moses' soldiers and telling them to go into some city and sack it, kill all the men, but
Probably. But you're
the
the
girls.
Christian. You should know.
I think so. I don't remember exactly where it is, but there's something I vaguely remember about
of Canaan, but no, they are not just talking of raping them, kill everybody, like everybody, even the animals of them, but those children or those women who didn't lay down with a man, you have to keep
Something
for
like that.
your
Yeah.
for your sexual pleasure.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
and presumably those would be kids, right? Because
Right.
if you look at the culture of the time, as soon as a woman is able to bear children, which is like, early teens technically,
13.
yeah, they're usually married off at that point. So presumably the girls who haven't lied with a man would be under the age of 13, which is definitely prepubescent.
Correct.
Which means it's ordering pedophilia.
It certainly licensed it, and it licensed the conquerors to take child brides as spoils of war. I think it specifically said that. And yes, and it also said, you are to kill little boys, 2-year-olds.
Yeah, so presumably
and
pedophilia
animals.
shouldn't even necessarily be a sin, right? Like within the context of Christianity.
That's why so many of them commit it.
And you know that God fucked Mary when she was 14, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. That's only if you're a Mormon.
Okay.
Only Mormons think they actually got it on.
So there must have been another way, you say?
Well, it depends on which flavor of Christianity
I
we're
like
talking
Mormons,
about.
because
But
Mormons have got it right. At least they got their biology right.
yeah, no, Mormons are really lame though, because they don't even let you have multiple wives anymore. So you can't do any drugs if you're Mormon, and you can't have multiple wives. It's gone down a bit in my hierarchy of best and worst religions.
Yeah, but can you eat chocolate as a Mormon?
I don't think so, because doesn't chocolate contain caffeine? You're not allowed
Can
caffeine.
you drink coffee as a Mormon?
No coffee, no tea, no soda, unless it's I think you can have root beer, but you can't have like strong drink, which is like coffee, alcohol, no drugs at all. No tobacco.
Can you have
no marijuana.
Can you have a sense of humor as a Mormon?
Maybe they have magical
I
underwear.
don't think so. Not to what you're saying. After what you're saying.
You get magic undies.
The one thing I disagree with, they actually use soda pop as a hypocritical element. There's no clear-cut rule on pop. As somebody who had to live with Mormons for almost a year, I can tell you.
Tell us.
That's oh yeah, they're really strict on the coffee and the tea thing.
Yeah.
They drink Coca-Cola. They serve Mountain Dew. in places, in communities that are exclusively Mormon. So what does that tell you? If you go to a gas station and you can get a big ass thing of Mountain Dew,
and you can buy craft beer made by Mormons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but that doesn't really.
yeah,
I mean, you
but
could buy
no,
marijuana
wait.
made by nuns, and doesn't mean they smoke it.
It means that somebody has to taste it before they sell it.
But wait a minute, is Mormon craft beer? Is it just
Yeah, but
like
they'll employ one of those professional German brewmeisters or something.
But is it non-alcoholic? Is it like the
no.
Oh, it's beer.
Oh wow, that's funny. I didn't know that.
All right, let's get off on too much of a tangent. Let's get back to.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's nothing to be sorry
I'm
about.
just a beer drinker, and I never. And I will come to US of A this year.
Yes.
And I will drink some Mormon beer for sure.
Yeah, I can tell by your accent you're definitely the beer expert here.
Too much talking, and there's too many assertions in that to even start to be. See, the thing is, Darwin does not want a discussion. Darwin wants to preach his religion. Darwin wants to preach his faith. He has no objective at all in having a discussion between himself and myself, or him and atheists, or him. He just wants to preach what he believes. And what he believes is fine for him, but it has no relevance to anyone apart from him. It's ineffective, it's unscriptural, it's unchristian the way he does do things, and it's just pathetic. No one will ever be persuaded to become a Christian based on his methodology. Absolutely no one.
Okay, yeah, could you just let me know like 10 seconds before my time is up, MK? Okay, good. So basically what we had here is pretty much just an ad hominem. He says it's ineffective. Who is he to judge whether it's effective? When we do what the Bible says in proclaiming the truth, our motivation is to do so which is pleasing God, not to seek that which are effective in persuading people. He says that I'm pathetic. Well, that's not an argument. He said that I'm being unchristian. That's not really an argument. He said nobody will be persuaded. Well, you see, again, here's the problem. There's got to be a final authority for anything to determine that something is the case or true. And either it will be the God of Christianity, or it will be the mind of the unbeliever. Now, God is the final authority to state what is the case in reality. And the ultimate evidence for God is that without him, there can be no evidence.
You see, there's a whole lot of bullshit going on there. First of all, to say that his methodology is ineffective is not an ad hominem. An ad hominem is when you attack the person without addressing their argument, or instead of addressing their argument. I'll make insults at him because he's a prick, but I'll also address the arguments, which means it's not ad hominem. In regards to what the Bible says, there is no biblical justification for presuppositionalism. There is nowhere taught in fact, if you look at the teachings of Jesus, he did not take a presuppositionalist approach to giving the gospel. In fact, he said we are to be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. The Apostle Paul said we are to become all things to all men that we might win some for Christ. And the most interesting thing though is he keeps saying, here's a false dichotomy, okay? This is a logical fallacy. So the logical dichotomy is this. Either the final source of authority is either the God of Christianity or the mind of the unbeliever. So that's the dichotomy he presented there. But let's see if there's any other options. Either the final authority is either the God of Islam or the God of Christianity or the mind of the unbeliever. The final authority is either the God of Judaism or the God of Islam or the God of Christianity or the mind of the unbeliever. The final authority is either the reasoning powers of the rationality of human beings. all the God of. See, there's so many other options that he just excludes arbitrarily, gives no justification for that, and that shows you that he's committing a logical fallacy there. He's committing a logical fallacy of false dichotomy.
Well, first of all, Jesus was not dealing with skeptics. Everybody Jesus spoke to was a God believer. When you cited that we should be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves, that verse is not a rebuttal to anything that I said, because I actually am following the wisdom of God in the Bible. You said we become all things to all men. Again, that's a misuse and a misapplication of the passage, because Paul was simply talking about how he appealed to his Jewish background and his understanding of Judaism when he dealt with Jews, and when he dealt with Gentiles, he did not emphasize that. So none of those verses support your rebuttal. Now, you also said that there's no biblical justification for the presuppositional position. Well, that's just an empty statement. The fact of the matter, Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It logically and necessarily follows that therefore everything that exists that is external or independent of God is contingent upon God. And that means all logic and wisdom and reasoning is contingent upon the God of the Bible. It is not contingent upon something else. So whenever
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
There we can go to previous conversation, right? That the climate change depends on God.
Okay.
Right? Do you understand my backlash? Right?
No. I understand the original climate change thing, but of it right now, no, I don't understand.
No. It was the claim in the previous clip where he's saying that God created creatures, and suddenly the climate was changing.
And then he adjusted the human creatures to the climate.
Yeah, and now he's saying that everything depends on God. So every change, right? So the climate change depends now also on God.
Exactly.
Which will mean that God knew that he will change the climate, right? And therefore he was doing something completely stupid. He was creating 900 of those people to die.
Yeah.
No, he was presenting in the previous conversation that the climate changed independent of God, and now he's saying everything goes back to God. So the climate change was also caused by God.
Right.
This is what I'm saying. Okay.
Right. Sorry, go ahead, Oprah.
Oh, and there was something else that he did there that was really fucking sneaky, is that he called Matt Bell out on performing an ad hominem when Matt Bell was very, very clearly destroying Darth's ideology. And by definition, attacking somebody's ideology cannot be an ad hominem, because unless you're Darth Dawkins, your ideology does not have personhood. So because you saw like what a violent reaction that produced in him. And I think right there he sort of accidentally let escape one of his weird twisted brain functions that we weren't supposed to see.
Yeah.
And that is, he really cannot separate his ideology from his God.
So you think he's mentally disturbed?
That's
obvious.
That's You literally just asked the stickiest question that sort of hangs between those two those two areas, and I think that's far too deep to go into here. Wouldn't you say, guys?
No. With this man Gary, nothing is off the table.
Nothing's off the table, but again, it's one of those deliberately squirrely questions that's just designed to
we could
derail
discuss
the whole conversation or make the other person look stupid.
Right.
That's
We could discuss his mental condition as a whole new stream.
Right,
on
but
another day.
Is Christianity a delusion? And the DSM has, as by omission, said no, it's not, because there's nothing in there that says, Christianity type 2 axis delusion. You know what I mean? sub-axis, paranoid.
No, that's
blah,
under
blah,
the
blah.
DSM-5 under imaginary friends. Okay, you want to carry on? Okay.
Unbeliever thinks or reasons or has the capacity to know something in such a way that they cannot be wrong, it is contingent upon the God of the Bible. If they deny that, then they are incapable of demonstrating when they open their mouth and make a comment about any state of reality. They cannot, but based upon their final authority, which is their human reason, to state that anything actually is the case and that it is true. So this position of presuppositionalism actually is a biblical approach, because without the Christian God, there can be no evidence.
That's just pure begging the question. The subject under dispute is whether or not without God there can be justification. And all you're doing is you're asserting your view of the very issue that's under dispute, which is classical logical fallacy begging the question. And you never addressed the false dichotomy. I presented the false dichotomy. The final authority is either the God of Christianity or the mind of the unbeliever. I gave you option C, the God of Islam, the option D, the God of Judaism, option E, the rationality of human beings. So you've got at least three, there's much more you could come up with, of course, but there's at least three alternatives to something being the final authority for knowledge. And of course, you can't address that. All you can do is you'll either appeal to the Bible, which is begging the question, or you'll try to dismiss Islam and Judaism on a non-evidentiary basis. So you really got nothing. I mean, if you want to think that you are offering this community something useful, something that can persuade, something that can bring people to Christ, you are really doing a very poor job at doing that. I am a believer. I believe in the Bible. I believe it's the inspired word of God. I believe that Christ died for the sins of the elect, and etc., etc. If you cannot even get believers to look at what you're doing and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that could work. Then you ain't got a chance in hell or in heaven of ever doing anything useful apart from preaching your own faith, your own religion, your own insecurities. That's all you're doing here. You're just preaching your religion. That's not having a discussion. That's not engaging intellectually with other people. It's just saying, hey, I believe this. I'm going to keep repeating this until people either get too bored of listening to me, they block me, or else they just basically tell me to piss off.
Okay, Matt says it's a false dichotomy. Well, the context of what we're discussing is between the Christian worldview, which is the worldview that I hold, and
no, it's not.
You're interrupting me. I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you the whole time, and I would appreciate that you show me the same courtesy that
I'm not going to show you courtesy.
I would appreciate that you not interrupt me. I did not interrupt you. You are over talking.
Represent me
I would
accurately.
appreciate that you not over talk me. I did not interrupt you the whole time you were talking.
And represent me accurately.
I expect the same courtesy that I showed
going
you.
to get
Matt,
you're being rude.
Me,
Matt, let him talk. I want to hear what he says.
Okay, Matt, you are being
but he needs to represent me accurately.
Being obnoxious. I did not interrupt you once. I sat here completely silent. Of course you don't, because you see.
This is where moderation fails. I think they should be, instead of talking to each other, they should be talking to the moderator. Instead of them insulting each other, they should almost like a parliamentary session through the speaker. That's it.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But isn't that what Darth does a lot of the time? Is when his things aren't going his way, he also screams for mods. That's another way of him dodging.
No, I just think that's the way it always should be, so that it's the decorum is kept fairly under control if the moderator is always sort of involved in keeping it flowing nicely.
Yeah, but I mean, in this case, you also have, you know, two narcissists, which you might as well put two immovable objects against each other.
But if they were
you
each
know.
talking to the moderator and saying, you know, tell, you know, moderator, my esteemed opponent is misrepresenting what I said, and then the moderator can, you know, can at least address that, because Darth Dawkins was misrepresenting what, instead of Darth Dawkins telling us what Darth Dawkins thinks, he starts off with telling us what Matt Bell
doing that.
thinks. And that is
doing that though. He never wants to tell you what he thinks.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so let's listen in.
You don't want to hear a rebuttal. You just want to overtalk people. Well, Matt, it is my turn to speak. It is not your turn.
There's no one here to give you
had your opportunity. You had your opportunity to speak, and you were displaying childish behavior by interrupting me. Now, I would appreciate you stop talking while it's my turn to speak. I did not interrupt you. Okay?
I'm not going to grant you that.
This is what children do when the adults are out of the room. Children behave very badly,
You're
and this is what you're doing.
You're a juvenile delinquent.
Okay, Matt, I did not interrupt you. Please.
Again, I don't give a fuck.
Okay, good. And when mommy and daddy are out of the house, children behave very badly.
And that's what they're
MK is
going to
not
do.
in the room to enforce the rules.
Says the 60-year-old man who lives with his mommy in the basement.
And you are being abusive.
Accurately.
Okay, well, you see, this is
Represent
why
me
it is
accurately, you can
impossible,
talk.
unless there's a mommy or daddy figure
Represent me, you
to
can
have
talk.
a conversation. Now, are you going to allow me to speak without you interrupting me?
As long as you are speaking
I
accurately
know
of
there's
my
not going to be
position.
any preconditions there, because I didn't lay
That
out any
is the
preconditions for you.
precondition.
I would
That is the
appreciate that you
precondition.
stop interrupting me, and I am not going to let you to overtalk me when it's my turn. So you're either going to shut up, or I'm going to keep on talking over your interrupting me. Now, what's it going to be, Matt? Are you going to stop interrupting me?
No.
Okay, good. Then I'm just going to keep on talking right over you, and I'm going to
keep talking over
demonstrate to
you, and
to
it just
the
goes
audience
nowhere,
the
round and
childish
round in a
mentality
circle.
that you have. You are being abusive now because I did not interrupt you, but you are interrupting me.
Again,
and the more you talk, the more you're making yourself look childish and foolish. If you have the strong intellect that you do, you should have the courage of your convictions to let your opponent to speak.
As long as
This is not your room. This is MK's room. So what you need to do is you need to shut your mouth and take turns like adults. Now, are you going to act like an adult and let me have my turn as I allowed you? Yes or no, Matt?
No.
Okay, good. Then I am just going to, I will talk until my throat is hoarse. I will continue to talk over you and make you look like the fool that you are, because you cannot reason like an adult. So what's it going to be? Are you going to let me have my turn to rebut what you said, or are you going to keep on interrupting me?
I just told you no.
Okay, good. Then I'll just keep on talking. All right. Now, Matt said that.
So what I was saying is that this guy,
Matt, you are being abusive. Please stop
misrepresenting
Matt, you
people's
are
position.
overtalking me. It is my turn to speak, Matt. Matt, it is my turn to speak, and I would request that you respect that it is.
I muted you because godless thoughts.
I guess we're going to have to wait till Daddy comes home to stop Matt behaving like a little child.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait until there's a moderator.
So we're going to have to wait until I can get my turn so Matt doesn't act. Aren't you glad this is recorded?
Yeah, we are all glad about that.
Okay, are you back, MK? Earth to MK?
Yeah, I have to adjust my microphone.
Okay.
You hear me?
Now, while you were gone, I let Matt freely speak for as long as he wanted, and then when he stopped talking, I took my turn to offer a rebuttal. Within a few words of me offering rebuttal, Matt nonstop interrupted me and refused to let me speak uninterrupted. Okay, now he did so because there was no moderator in the room. Okay, now this is abusive and childish behavior. Okay, now if you don't believe me, I can play the recording for you right now, which I'm sure you probably don't want me to play.
No, I was
Okay?
actually here. I saw that. I just couldn't respond because I was chatting.
That's fine. That's fine. So you saw what the abusive behavior was going on. He wants to claim that I'm offensive, I'm unpersuasive to unbelievers. He claims he wants to engage in an intellectual debate, and yet when I tried to intelligently respond, he just proceeded to insult and attack me. Gee, how persuasive is that going to be to me that I'm incorrect when he engages in abusive tactics? I guess Matt is not following his own advice about employing methodologies that are effective to persuade those who disagree with.
Listen, you dumb fuck. You started off misrepresenting the situation. You cannot address the false dichotomy. You're not capable of. All you can do is say, oh, no. This is what we're doing. We're only talking about two worldviews, the God of Christianity and the mind of the unbeliever. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the value of presuppositionalism. In the value of presuppositionalism, your presupposition is the God of Christianity is the final authority. I say false dichotomy. We have the God of Islam. We have the God of Judaism. We have the gods of Hinduism. All of those can be the final authority. There's no good reason to go with the God of Christianity. It begs the question. And that's why I interrupted you, because again, you're not interested in that rational discussion. You're only interested in preaching your insecure religion. And that's what it is. Insecure religion.
Okay. Would I be blocked out if I started calling somebody a dumb fuck in here, MK?
Yeah, you know what? That actually reminds me. Okay, how about this? I
Would
think
you tolerate if I did that to my opponents?
I might tolerate it for a bit, but yeah, going forward, let's not.
Good. Okay, so what I just said is Matt demonstrated his own glaring hypocrisy when he says that we have to employ means that are effective that will persuade people and not turn them off. Now, Matt is attempting to, quote, persuade me, and he's calling me a dumb, he's calling me a dumb fuck. Okay? He's psychoanalyzing me, saying that I'm insecure. Now, when you make personal gratuitous attacks, is that really effective in trying to persuade somebody that their position is incorrect? Well, I would submit that most people would say no, that they would consider that was abusive. Now, the reason why Matt is incorrect, that it's a false dichotomy, is because the subject at hand was between the Christian worldview versus skepticism. Unfortunately, Matt was not aware of the fact that we weren't talking about other God beliefs, because the Christian worldview, from a presuppositional point of view, can withstand other claims to deities, and it can be defeated. So it's not a false dichotomy. The bottom line is this. One more thing. The bottom line is this. Matt is incorrect because the Genesis 1:1 says all of creation is contingent upon the God of Christianity. Now, we have to state what God has stated. We don't need to argue for it, because God's statement that he is the source of all wisdom and knowledge is self-authenticating.
Okay. So, what I'm gonna do, because I don't want to interrupt you guys verbally, like with my verbal stuff. So after a certain amount of points or time, I'll just broadcast the other person, and then when that person wants to interject, then I'll just hide the other person.
I think that's fair. By the way, what's up, y'all?
I mean, that's pretty easy to respond. First of all, I don't have the objective. I don't have the objective to persuade Darwin's deity. I have tried that previously. It was met with a brick wall. So I don't have that objective in mind to persuade him. He is beyond persuasion because he's a presuppositionalist, and most presuppositionalists, if not all, are beyond the powers of rational persuasion. They have abandoned rationality for an assumption. Second of all, the subject I'm addressing is presuppositionalism. The question I was asked by MK Why is presuppositionalism ineffective? The reason it's ineffective is because it sets up a false dichotomy. I don't give a fuck what the previous discussion was about. Presuppositionalism, if you start and you say it's either God, the God of Christianity, or the mind of the unbeliever, that's a false dichotomy. And presuppositionalism cannot evidentially, from an evidentiary basis, cannot refute other religions like Islam or Judaism or any other religions, or indeed, yeah, there's thousands of religions. Lastly, in Genesis chapter 1, he says, Genesis chapter 1 says this, in the beginning, well, who cares what Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 says? It doesn't matter. For the unbeliever, it's just a book of myths. It has no authority. Just because it has authority to a believer doesn't mean that they can assert that it has authority to the unbeliever or other believers or people of other religions. Islam believes in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. Judaism believes in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. However, they do not view that God to be the God of Christianity. So it just really is very, it's just too easy to refute this irrational nonsense coming from an irrational person.
Okay, so basically most of what we just heard was just an emotional diatribe. It's a psychoanalysis of my mental state. It's not really an objective. He just says that it's ineffective. He makes the claim. We're not to judge whether what method of apologetics we use is effective or not. The method of apologetics that we need to use is that which is taught and ordained of the God of the Bible. He says, who cares what Genesis 1:1 says? So Matt claims that he is a believer. So basically what he has just said is this: who cares what God, who is the final authority, says? And he says that proclaiming Genesis 1:1 or any other scripture to the unbeliever, quote, has no authority. So what Matt is actually asking us to do is something that is grossly unbiblical. That is to appeal to a false authority, because the unbeliever's mind is a false authority. In the unbeliever's mind, his reason is the final arbiter of what is the truth. So what Matt just said to us is, who cares what the God of the Bible says? Who cares what Genesis 1 says?
So, and this will be the last, and this is like the last statement because I have to go to sleep. But Matt was in fact right. Genesis 1:1 is believed by all these other religions.
Yes.
And Gary, he is hiding about the word God, but in fact, he is representing the Christians, right? So if the other, and he's claiming all the other religions are false.
Yeah.
Right. So his when he says that Genesis 1:1, when he is referring to that, it doesn't mean that his God is true, and he's not going only against the non-believers.
Yeah.
He is also going about the other religions, which not all the others, the two other religions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not an evidence for his position or to make the other beliefs untrue, right? So he's making a false dichotomy.
Well, what he said was that, from what I understand, he said that everybody's holy book is their authority, right? So if you're Christian, the Christian Bible is your authority, and if you're Jewish, or Islam or whatever, then their book is their authority. With us, we have
no.
No,
what Gary's meaning that
Matt said that. Matt said that.
Yeah. Matt said that you cannot present your opinion like why the precepts are false because they presuppose the Christian God, right? And as the evidence, they will quote stuff like Genesis 1:1. God created.
Yeah, but Gary said that Christianity begins at Genesis 1:1, basically, and Matt pointed out how stupid that is, because the Jews believe that
Yes.
everything began at Genesis 1:1, and they don't believe in Jesus. So what a stupid thing to say on
Exactly.
Gary's
So,
part.
right. So his evidence is not evidence for his God. This is what
exactly. Yes.
Right.
But what Matt Bell actually said was that atheists and people of other faiths have no reason to believe Genesis 1:1, and so since if they're going to start
the
as
authority, it's not the authority, right?
Yeah.
Right. If you're going to start at Genesis 1:1 as the cornerstone, why the fuck would an atheist believe that on its face if all it is just words in a stupid book?
Exactly. Good point. Well said.
I find.
You see what Matt believes? He's not a real Christian. He believes that the argument starting at Genesis is stupid. What kind of a Christian is Matt Bell? He's just so insidious. He's literally like handling an oiled snake. That's why I said straw man when he did that to Matt, because as much as I think they're both loathsome creatures, Darth is a special kind of greasy snake.
I agree with you 100%.
So yeah, you're right. So on the other side, there's the argument how the non-believers or believers in other religions take this as authority, because it's not. I find it much more interesting, or much more the other side of it, because the side that the non-believer will not take it as an authority is obvious, right? But I find it the nuanced thing, right, that the Jews and the Muslims believe in the same bullshit, right, does not prove Gary's position.
No, not
and
at all.
he is not capable of understanding it.
Right.
Now, hang on. Saying they believe in the same bullshit now, that's just not true.
No, they believe in the same verse, okay? Because they have the same, I'm not saying the gods are different, but they believe in, all of them are believing that in the beginning, God created the earth and the whatever, and the universe or whatever, right? This one sentence, they believe, all of them are believing it, but they don't agree with it. So there is no such thing that what Gary is claiming, that you can only believe in God or not believe in God. There are only the two positions. There are many, or at least 3 other positions, which he have to take in account when he's arguing that. And this is what Gary is not doing. He's just seeing the believers and non-believers, and he's hiding that he's claiming taking the position for the Christian God.
Well, it's even more than just 2 or 3, because within all of these religions, you then have like different factions, different denominations. That's the word I was looking for. And they still believe in different things. They essentially believe that God has different views on different things, and a perfect God really shouldn't have contradictory views. So presumably the only logical conclusion is that even within these different denominations, they technically are believing in different gods.
Yeah, 35,000 dominations of Christianity alone. Yeah.
Yeah, I think though the reason they get that really high number is because I believe it's with Baptist churches. Technically, each individual one is a different denomination. Like Baptist it might not be Baptist. It might be like Methodist or something, but technically it's just kind of, do your own thing. Like I remember when I was going to different churches, we were Methodist, AME, but even then you go to a different AME church, the whole vibe could be very, very different, just from one church to another within the same town.
Right, and they will call each other the devil, right? They are not the right believers. We are the only one who know.
Nah, it wasn't that extreme, at least in my experience, but there would be some small things that they disagree with. Like one thing that I even will sometimes bring up with my family, just to as kind of a joke to poke fun of them, is the fact that they have a female priest, and somewhere I forget where, but it's in the New Testament. I'm pretty sure it says that you're not supposed to have female priest.
Right. Women should remain quiet, and they have no authority above men. And
yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Oh fuck! I'm getting really good at Bible. Yeah. And nevertheless, I will go to sleep now because I have to work, like in 7 hours.
All right. Well, have a good sleep. Have a good shift at work.
Yes. And yeah, thank you for the talk, and have fun.
Okay.
Even our leaving.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for hanging out, Pio.
Awesome. So we can carry on and see how far we get.
Even though Matt would have to agree that God is the final authority, and says that we should appeal to a false authority, which would be the unbeliever's own mind and reason. Matt's position is grossly unbiblical.
And this is so easy to respond to, it's almost embarrassing. He starts off by saying, all I presented was emotional diatribe. If you look at what I'm posting in the side chat, before the two words there, emotional diatribe, I put my points in, and I stated that first of all, I presented the reason why I'm not trying to persuade him. That's not emotional, that's based on facts and evidence. I have tried before to engage with him. That was met with a brick wall. He kicked me from his hand. Emotional diatribe, that's an argument. And third of all, when I said Genesis chapter 1, that's true. It is completely pointless to point to Genesis chapter 1:1 as if it's automatically true just because it's written in that book. What he's doing is he's presupposing that the Bible is the revealed word of God. The atheist is never going to grant him that. The non-Christian's never going to grant him that. Even believers like me, I know what he's doing, and I'm not going to grant him that. And he needs to realize the only thing that's going to work here when you're dealing with non-believers, as did Jesus, you need to go where the atheist is. You need to start from where they are, and you then work up to where you want them to be. Or, as the words of Paul, you become all things to all men to win some for Christ. Which means, if you're dealing with an atheist who wants evidence and reason, you become that kind of person. You provide them with reason and evidence. You don't present them with something that's the contrary of becoming all things to all men. And that's an accurate representation of the text, not a misrepresentation, which he asserted but never supported.
Okay, Matt has already been rebutted a number of times when he cites, I become all things to all men. He's reading in his own personal evidentiary bias into that verse. The fact of the matter is, we can see very clearly from the text, Paul is referring to his ethnicity when appealing to the Jews and not appealing to his ethnicity when he's not appealing to non-Jews. Now, notice again, he says that it is pointless to point to the self-authenticating claims of the Christian God. Now, do you see how much disdain he has for the authoritative Word of God? Now, he says that the Bible is the Word of God. Oh, and by the way, everyone, for the audience out there, Matt believes that there are errors in the Word of God. So how is Matt able to determine what is an error and what is not? Because Matt does not hold to the fact that every single word, all Scripture is inspired of God. He rejects that biblical doctrine. Now, he says an atheist will not grant that you are stating that the Bible is the Word of God. Okay, so what Matt is simply saying is we have to jettison God as the final authority. But Matt is saying that we have to jettison what God himself declares. God himself is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. He is the final authority. Whether an atheist concedes to this or not. He says we have to appeal to another authority other than God, and that would be the atheist mind. So we have a false God, which is the atheist's own final authority, his own reason. And so Matt's position is not a biblical one, although he does want to throw out a slogan, I become all things to all men. Well, that's like McDonald's saying, you deserve a break today, or I'm loving it. It's nothing more than a slogan.
Okay, can I jump in?
Sure.
I want to let Matt respond, but I also want to open it up for Spoken, Gigi, David, anyone else. So after Matt responds, then it's just going to be open.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's just more nonsense. First of all, he makes the claim that the Bible passage, I become all things to all men that I might win some for Christ, is not just related to his ethnicity as a Jew. He also did that, and he did that everywhere he went. If you look at when he preached on Mars Hill, he was not referring, he became a philosopher. He became like the Greeks. That's nothing to do with his Judaism, his Hebrewism. He made appeal to philosophy, and he went where the Greeks were, and the verse is quite clear, specific. I, Paul, become all things, not some things, to all men, that I might win some for Christ. It's a verse the presuppositionalists cannot do anything about. They have to just deny its authenticity or try and limit it to the teachings of Paul. It stands, and it stands firm, and every time he speaks to a non-believer or an atheist or a person of another religion, and he does not become what they are intellectually, then he is going against the dictates of Scripture as given to us by Paul. Second on that, I don't have disdain for the God as the final authority. I have disdain for presuppositionalism. It's been addressed many, many times on Google Plus communities. He will never address those rebuttals from people like Ozymandias Ramesses, from people like Floyd FP. They have addressed this time after time after time. They have done so effectively. They can put a foundation for their rationality, asking anyone. And it's just nonsense to say that presuppositionalism is some sort of unimpeachable standard where you can just arbitrarily refer to the God of Christianity whilst ignoring all the other gods.
All right, I'd like to respond.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, good.
Well, yeah, real quick. Yeah, feel free to respond, but I just want to reiterate the point to everyone that it's just completely free for open now. Anyone could,
Okay, good.
Well,
I want everybody to notice that Matt is double talking. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth when he says he doesn't disdain God as being the final authority. He certainly does, even though he denies that he's doing so, because he said it is pointless to point out to the unsaved person that God is the final authority. So is it pointless when God declares that he is the final authority to the unbeliever? Well, of course not. So if I am simply pointing to the fact of what the very thing that God claims, that he is the beginning and the end, and that he is the final authority, I mean, it is absurd. So when Matt says that that's pointless, then it's also pointless for God to say that he's the final authority. Well, I'm not done, because I'll be done in 30 seconds. Okay.
All right.
What he did is he said that we have to appeal to people like Floyd, FP, and Ozzy. The fact of the matter is these people are not neutral. Their foolish minds are darkened, the Bible says. They are in a state of rebellion. The problem is not that they haven't been persuaded. The problem with Floyd, FP, and Ozzy, to whom Matt says that we should appeal to, is they are unrepentant. You can bring all.
That's just begging the question.
Okay, man, I'd like to finish without being interrupted. I'll be done very soon.
Okay,
you can bring all of the reasoning and logic and evidence to people like Floyd FP, but until and if they repent, no amount of evidence is going to change their mind, because it is only repentance that brings about the full and complete knowledge of God, not merely appealing to their own faulty reasoning.
Can you stop this preaching, MK? Is this a hangout for preaching?
No.
Matt, what's wrong with preaching?
Wait, I got a question for you, Matt.
The place for preaching is in a pulpit to believers.
Matt,
That's
you
not
mind if
true.
I
That's not what the Bible
Yes,
says.
it is. It's yeah, I wasn't finished my statement. Or it's when you go into the public square with the objective to preaching to non-believers, to bring them to salvation. That's the appropriate place for preaching. If
Matt,
you enter into a if you enter into a what's known to be a forum for the exchange of ideas, for debate, for discussion between opposing parties, that's not the place for preaching.
Matt, question.
You know that's not biblical.
Well, I got a question. Got a question.
Can
Matt,
I make can I say one thing real quick before we move on?
Wait a minute. Tell me this. What's that guy's name? Let me see. Tell me this, Spoken. What did Paul do when he went to Mars Hill? I never asked you.
What did Jesus say about the revelation that he revealed?
Hey, wait a
He said to shout it at the rooftop to everybody for all to hear.
Why aren't you addressing my point? Here's the question you're being asked. Here's the question you're being asked. What did Paul do when he met the philosophers, the Greek philosophers at Mars Hill?
He offered a presuppositional argument.
Did he turn around and say this? Hey, you Greek philosophers, Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. You need to become saved. You need to repent of your sins.
Yes, he did that.
No, he didn't. He went.
He said God commended all men everywhere to repent.
He identified where they were, Greek philosophers, and he argued from Greek philosophy to what they were calling the unknown God, and he used that. He used something they were familiar with, something they identified with, to point to this thing you are calling the unknown God. Guess what? I can tell you who that is.
No, that is fallacious. He does not.
He went to
say
where they were.
God. No, that is. I got to stop you right there. What you just
you're not stopping me at all.
He has pressed the red button.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you just see him just fuck off just then? I just said, holy shit, dude, somebody just pressed Darth's red button. He just went.
Okay. This is crazy shit.
He followed his own advice.
Hey, MK, is he going to hog the microphone here?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, I'm not going to be moderating as strictly as I just did like 20 minutes ago, so it's kind of more like conversational now.
All right, because if you don't keep up regular moderating, Matt is well known for hogging the microphone.
Yeah, and you're well known for preaching.
And you see, he's doing it right now.
Yeah, because you're preaching.
Okay. The fact of the matter is, I'd like a chance to respond. Now, I would like to make one comment here. Okay. You see, he's going to be abusive. He'll be abusive until you stop him, MK.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not here to listen to people.
MK, can you stop him from interrupting, please?
Well, I think if you respond to what he said, he won't interrupt you.
No. I'm going.
You're not here. You're not going to be allowed to preach.
MK, he's going to listen. He's like a little child. If you don't,
you're not going to be allowed to preach.
Don't stop him.
I just want to know where in the Bible it says not to preach in certain places.
Okay, hold on a second. I'd like to respond.
Look at Paul on
spoke for a long time. He will not stop, MK.
One example, though. One example. That's really persuasive.
Here.
Yeah, let me give you an example then.
No, it's not your turn to speak.
John chapter 4.
It's not your turn to speak. Shut up.
No.
Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to not have people get blatantly interrupted, so EF, you did have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I make a brief comment about JJ being in the room here? Okay?
No.
You'll notice that he has a picture of Taylor Hicks. It is clearly intended to troll me. Thank you.
Who gives a fuck? It's a picture.
I'm talking right now. Mind your own.
You know what? Hey, we'll just do turns again, but I'm going to incorporate Spoken into the rotation as well.
Okay, great. That's good. I would welcome that. Spoken is.
I want to ask you.
Now it's my turn to speak. Please be quiet. Thank you. Okay. He said, what did Paul do? Okay, Matt made two gross and glaring errors. First of all, he said that Paul says that the unknown God was the God of the Bible. This is simply fallacious. Paul does not say that the unknown God. He just simply pointed out that they had a statue to an unknown God. But then Paul says, but I declare to you, Paul is saying there is one true God, and he made everything. And what does he start out with? He starts with the primacy and God being the creator of all things and the final authority. And then he builds the gospel on top of that. So when Matt says that he took an evidence approach, that's simply false. In fact, in Mars Hill, Paul took a presuppositional approach. He declared the supremacy and that God, the God who created all things, was the final authority.
He shorter turns at this point.
Okay, good. So Matt is simply fallacious when he says that the unknown God, that Paul said that the unknown God was the God of creation. I don't know what Bible Matt's reading.
All right, Matt, if you want to respond, and then I was going to have spoken after you.
Yeah, the best response is the scriptures. I'm not going to address this idiot Darwin, he's a prick. But spoken, just read John chapter 4. In John chapter 4, you'll see Jesus dealing with the women of Samaria. Again, another example where Jesus started from where she was and moved from where she was to where he wanted to get her, which was the final confession by her, I have met the Messiah. He did not go in there and say, hey, repent, the kingdom of heaven is near. Hey, this and preach, presuppositionalist. He started from where she was. He moved her to where he wanted her to be through a line of questions and reasoning. Paul is another example of that. I'm posting the Mars Hill thing into the chat there. There we go there. Some Epicurean and Stoic philosophers also began to debate with them. And you can read there. So you can read that there. He moved, again, he debated with them. And what he debated with them, it led them to be saying, well, let's know some more about this, what you're presenting. It's kind of strange to our ears, but let's listen to it. And so there was no just preaching the gospel and then not caring whether or not his audience, the message he was communicating was of such a nature as to be receptive to the audience he was speaking to. That's why we are to be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. We have to follow the example of Jesus in everything we do, including our preaching, including our apologetics, and including our methodology.
Okay. Oh, snap! Dropped my phone. Okay. See, I have no problem with like say when you are presenting the gospel message to someone, especially in the beginning, coming down to their level and understanding where they're coming from and their worldview is. I understand that completely. I think that's biblical. What I took issue with you saying is that when Darwin was, or what was his name, evolution. Well, when he was giving like an account of what it says in the gospel. Or what it says in the Bible, you were getting on him and saying this is not the place for preaching. I can't find any place in the Bible where preaching is not or something that we shouldn't do. I just took honestly that's the most unbiblical thing I've heard, saying that this is not the place for preaching. There's always a place for preaching. That's what we're told to do. Like that's what we're supposed to do like all day.
Yeah, okay, so I'd like to respond. Matt's fallacious. The reasoning is absolutely fallacious. Paul used a presuppositional approach on Mars Hill. He did not debate. He stood up and he preached, and he started off after he commented about some of the things that he observed. Then he laid down that there is one true God, and he is the creator of all things. He is simply declaring that God, the one true God, is the final authority and arbiter of all things. So Paul's approach in Mars Hill was clearly and unequivocally presuppositional. Now on to John 4. Matt really, I don't think, has a good understanding of this passage, because Jesus was actually being presuppositional when he dealt with the woman. The reason why he didn't have to declare that God was the final authority or arbiter of what truth is or reality is because the Samaritan woman already agreed with Paul's presuppositions. The only difference was This woman was a Samaritan and followed the Samaritan version rather than the version of Judaism. And Paul went right after, Jesus went in a very polite and respectful way. He pointed out that her Samaritan presuppositions are false. He goes, that which you worship, you do not know. In other words, he was doing a presuppositional internal critique of her Samaritan worldview. He did need to critique that she believed in the one true God or Moses, because she already accepted that. But he went after her specific presuppositions that the specifics of her Samaritan religion were bogus, and that the presuppositions that the Jews held to were the truth. So when Matt cited John chapter 4 and the Samaritan woman as an argument against presuppositionalism, other than the fact that he has a disdain for presuppositionalism, John chapter 4 actually supports presuppositionalism, and Matt does not have the foggiest idea of what he's talking about.
I want to jump in. Hey, since we're talking about presuppositionalism, Matt, the question I wanted to ask you before was, from my perspective, I think the presuppositional people try to point out, not that other people don't have a foundation, but that their foundation is just an assumed foundation, whereas the foundation for God is a node foundation. I don't know if you want to, maybe you can address that and address what EF said as well.
Yeah, you need to stop this fucking stupid unbroadcasting, people. It's silly, it's juvenile, and it's stupid. But second of all, I
wrote a personal message to Matt in the side about insults and stuff, and he just violated it right there.
So yeah, that's the end of that. That's the end of that one. Welcome, number one.
I beat it. Go pet.
What?
I'm gonna be here about 5 minutes only. Yeah, just pop in to say hi because it's midnight here in the UK.
Oh, so how much of this did you catch?
I was listening on my mobile. Let me see. Let me say hi. But it's too much nonsense from that silly bollocks, Gary Mill.
Isn't it? Hold on, I'm just adjusting speakers again.
Hi, Oscar.
Hi there, young lady.
I think the other day when we started to unpack this whole transaction, right, between Darth Dawkins and the convicted pedophile Matt Bell, I think at one point, Sidney, I made this flippant joke like a pedophile and a pre-supper walk into a bar, and like, yeah, it really is sort of a joke when you think of these two trying to like morally correct each other or virtue signal at each other. You know, how truly preposterous that is. Like in hindsight, right now that we know that that Matt was a nonce.
I mean, I don't know. It has to be somebody really mentally deranged to profess to be a religious person, in this case, a Christian, and be mixed up with young people. It's just, you know what I mean? It is sad, and it's an irony, right? That they have the audacity to come on camera, you know what I mean, on one of these venues, right, and start spewing out nonsense about Christianity, this, that, and they are fucking nasty piece of human beings. I don't know.
Unquestionably, and yeah, it's just now we know so much more. At the time that went down, you know, nobody really had any idea what the background was for Matt Bell, but Matt Bell was honest and was trying to call out strawmanning the shit out of his position. And whenever two Christians go at it together, they always have to end it with, you see, this gentleman said A, B, and C, therefore he's not a real Christian, and run that no true Scotsman fallacy through the meat
disturbing?
grinder.
You know what's disturbing to me? To think that Matt Bell pretty much put Darth Dawkins in his place time and time again. But what's disturbing is that before Matt Bell came on to the hangout to put Darth Dawkins in his place, was he interacting with somebody in like the Philippines, and doing the pedophile thing? That's what kind of creeps me out. Like, what was he doing?
I don't think that just happened, just so happened to take place as Matt was having a personal falling down. No, that's not a pattern of behavior for this sort of pedophile who is using dark web channels and multiple layers of encryption to pay for poor Filipino women to abuse their children online in front of a camera. At the overwhelming and shall we say godlike command of this gentleman who can literally get a sex act for 50p, and during one of these webcams might have that girl abused for roughly 30 or 45 minutes for the cost of 2 venti Starbucks coffees. So it's just really deplorable, and it's exploitation at the worst because of the fact that you are doing it in a third world country where people will do this in order to make enough money to feed their families, right?
Right.
So what do you think about Darth Dawkins or Gary's statement that atheists are worse than pedophiles?
Well, hang on.
Well,
I heard dark web.
I heard dark web.
Sorry, Faust, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying I heard dark web and I had to switch tabs back to here because we're talking about something up my alley. So what's going on?
Alpha said dark web. I'm not sure.
I was referring to the nature of Matt Bell's crimes, in which he was convicted, possibly in one of the large sweeping UK stings, of hiring a Filipino. You know what I mean? It was one of those Filipino sex rings where, you have a collection of prepubescent girls that are molested online. You know what I mean, for a payment per sex act. So, and of course, all of this goes through dark channels or encrypted channels. I'm sorry, I'm not a tech person, so please forgive my ignorance if I'm screwing this up. But I was just describing the way these crimes take place, and then was referring,
Well,
to,
how would Matt Bell's crime have taken place on the dark net or whatever they call it?
Well, he was saying that he doesn't necessarily know if it was on the dark web, which I would have to say from
must have been.
No, because okay, here's the thing. This is in a way an area of expertise for me, because I watch a lot of pedophile catching channels on YouTube. Almost never do those guys actually use the dark web. More often than not, they're using did you say my mic was dropping out?
No, I said yeah, because those YouTube channels are all over the place.
Yeah, there's like a dozen of them that I watch.
Catch a Predator and whatnot.
Yeah, and they don't ever use the dark web. That's one of the things that are kind of I don't even know. Like I guess it's good because these are pedophiles, and that's one of the crimes that I actually do think is a real crime.
So what do they use then? They just use regular
They use regular shit. They use like Telegram, Snapchat, Instagram. They use Twitter. They use Meet Me, and it's kind of fucked because you would think that somebody who's going to do a crime like this would kind of look into it in a way to sort of anonymize yourselves. But I would say probably 99 out of 100 pedophiles do not do their thing on the dark web. They're actually doing it on the regular internet.
Wow, but this particular thing this
So
particular
I was looking up my terminology then, because what I meant was there's a channel, right, or a path in which the predator is contacting a cam girl in the Philippines, right? And that channel is what I was talking about. It is an encrypted channel. It is Telegram or WhatsApp or
I
or
know,
what
but
have you.
but my
And
point is that
but here's the thing. Here's the thing. By paying for the act and basically constructing a child rape act, you know what I mean, by request, coin for coin. What you're also doing is you are producing child porn material, because that person is going to be recording that and then use that material as a
Yeah, he's funding
mechanism
it.
to get into dark web forums where they are trading child porn. So that's all I was going to say. Is I just kind of goofed up
none of
the
the
words there a little bit, but that's all. That's all.
none of the programs that thank you, but none of the programs that False Evangelist mentioned allowed the kind of exchange that happened with Matt Bell to actually happen, like over the internet, watching and payment and all this. I just don't understand how that couldn't be. I mean, that's there's nothing clandestine about that. If you if you pay somebody through PayPal to watch something um, on the internet, it doesn't seem like these applications that Foss Evangelist mentioned cover that type of behavior. So maybe the dark net somehow is involved.
But what you're describing is a passive observer situation where, in this case, let's say Mr. Bell was paying to watch abuse already take place. And what I'm describing, what he actually did, was he did a live act. He did a performance that was custom made just for him. A child was abused just for him on his orders, word for word, 50 pence by 50 pence. Do this to her, do that to her, you know?
Jeez,
So
really?
so
I don't
this is
even know
this is
these
what
details.
I'm talking about. Yes, sir. This is how this is what happens when you get a Filipino cam girl. If you get one of age, I don't think it's a crime. But what we're discussing is not between two consenting adults or your garden variety prostitution. This is starving families abusing their own children online.
Yeah, the way that you're describing it makes it sound like it might have been a live stream or something like that, which I will say again with my area of expertise.
Yes,
If it is
sir.
a live stream, it almost certainly did not take place on the dark web because I'm not sure about I2P, but I know for Tor, for example, it's basically impossible to do live streams on Tor because of the nature of the network. It routes your traffic through 3 different servers.
Right, so it's just
yeah.
impossible. I understand.
Yeah, even if you could get a live stream working, you would have a ridiculous delay, like probably a minute or 2.
Sure, and I appreciate it, by the way, of being corrected. Because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I would rather have somebody set me straight than let me ramble on like an idiot.
Yeah, it should be
Oh,
like
no
that
problem.
for all
This is
of
what I
us.
do.
All of us.
Yeah, it's funny. Even all of my not all of my dark web content. I had to remove all of my dark web content from YouTube to avoid my channel getting deleted because I got a strike for one of my videos about the dark web. Yeah, it was really stupid because it was basically investigative journalism. So I went on the dark web to basically debunk the claim that you can buy firearms on there, because I'm sure that there might be some sites where you can, but I was showing how pretty much every site that I found that claimed to sell firearms was almost certainly fake.
Okay.
And YouTube wanted to say that I was, I guess, promoting the illegal sale of firearms or something like that.
Unbelievable.
Interesting, because from my perspective, I was told never ever go on the dark web because you're going to stumble across video footage, photographs, and of shit that you can never unsee. And so that's what personally have never stuck my toe into it.
Well, I did. I
Um,
went on Tor. I went to the search browser, everything, and I couldn't find a damn thing on the Tor that I couldn't find on regular internet. So I couldn't figure out how these people find each other. So that was the end of that.
Well, here's the thing about the dark web, and I'll just say kind of hackers in general, because that's the kind of people that are usually on here, is our morals are really not that different from regular everyday people, right? Like even criminals, okay? When a pedophile goes to prison, they get absolutely destroyed by criminals because even amongst their own code, they consider that to be very horrible. So on the dark
they're
web,
KOS, those guys, kill on sight.
yeah, exactly. So what you see on the dark web is the majority of search engines that exist for the dark web and the majority of link aggregate sites, which are basically just a site you go to and it indexes a bunch of other sites. The overwhelming majority of people who run these services on the dark web find pedophilia to be completely disgusting and immoral, so therefore they filter out all of those sites. They're definitely there, but you have to go very out of your way to find it.
What
And the
does that
same
even
kind of
mean?
goes with gore
What
to
does
some
that
extent.
even mean, go out of your way?
Well, you would have to use a search engine that doesn't censor results on Tor, but the majority of the most popular ones, like there's maybe
That's
10
just
search engines
too-
that I know about, and the top 5, they don't index child pornography.
Oh, that's just too much hassle.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's like I know there's lots of rumors about the dark web, like oh you find all
Sure.
this stuff, but in terms of the like CP specifically, it's kind of hard to actually find it. Like the most
Yeah.
likely way you would end
Which
up
is what it should
if
be,
you just click a
like-
random link. Yeah, exactly. Now things like I would say the most legitimate thing on there in terms of like crimes are the drugstores. Those are definitely real, and there's several of them.
Drugstores being like, but illegal. hard
Basically,
drugs?
like eBay, like an eBay for illegal narcotics. Exactly.
Yeah, www.fentanyl.com.
Is that what it's called?
No,
No. You don't. It's a
flippant.
dot onion.
Huh?
Right. I was just being flippant. That I was just naming a drug that's really, from what I understand, is traded pretty heavily on the dark web, and that's fentanyl and carfentanil.
I've never heard
maybe.
of the second one. What's the second one? I've never heard of that one.
Carfentanil is elephant tranquilizer. It's extremely dangerous stuff, but you can, because it's so concentrated, you can use it to cut it into larger batches of really, really ugly drugs like meth. And
I'm not
they're just
sure.
putting
I'm
it
not
in
sure.
everything.
Hello. I'm not sure we should be talking about this on this channel. I don't want to get my YouTube channel banned.
Oh well, all I'm saying is that they're taking these very, very highly potent forms
and cutting
I
it
mean,
up.
elephant tranquilizer. Good lord, that's some serious stuff,
Well,
right?
drugs are.
They
drugs
put it into ordinary street drugs, and then people are taking this and they're overdosing.
Drugs
So,
are a very big issue in my country, in my city.
yes,
People
everywhere.
are dying of fentanyl, and I think they're reporting that people are dying, but they're not actually doing much to stop the fentanyl flow in whichever way is the most efficient to save lives. That's the politicians.
Well, one thing I will say about
that
the
as they're cutting it into speed and other drugs, there are people that are going for a speed high that aren't even expecting for it to be there. They have no tolerance for any sort of opioid, so
what's a speed high?
Okay, you brought up the point that I was going to. Speed is methamphetamines, by the way. But you brought up the point I was going to make is that with the dark web, right? So we're dealing with something that's kind of like an eBay. And eBay, even regular eBay, actually works pretty well, right? Like 99 times out of 100, you actually get what you pay for. I think that this isn't for sure because I'm not really that knowledgeable, or at least don't have that much firsthand experience with black markets. But I have a feeling that if you were to buy something like speed, for example.
I thought you're from Atlanta.
Well, I don't like,
It must have been
really buy drugs
tons of black markets around there.
Sure. But I mean, I don't have firsthand experience like buying heroin or speed
I'm
and
not talking
figuring
about
out the purity.
heroin markets. I'm talking about
No.
Oh, okay.
Shit.
Yeah, I got it.
The grocery store.
Yeah. But anyway, I have a feeling that the dealers on these sites probably have more honesty than the ones on others, because I have a feeling that just by the nature of somebody purchasing off of the dark web, like the user, I think there's a higher chance that they would actually test their stuff versus some random person who buys from the streets.
So that the customer is essentially pain, shame, and depression. Is that who consumes these drugs?
Well, it depends. I mean, different people will consume different drugs for different reasons.
Well, okay, pain, shame, depression. What else?
I think the main reason is they enjoy how it makes them feel. I think that's the main reason why anyone takes any drugs.
I don't see anybody taking drugs in the streets that looks like they're enjoying themselves.
Well, that's kind of what we were talking about last time, right? Is when you get super addicted to drugs, it goes from you're not taking this to feel good, you're now just taking it to feel normal, because without it, you feel like crap.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, sometimes when I'm walking my dog in the morning in the park, especially in the summertime when they sleep in the park, and I'm walking at the time and he's kind of waking up and they're having their morning fix, and it's all in front of everybody in the park, but they just, you're walking past one little tent that has a couple of people in, and one of them's got a needle sticking in the arm, and the other one's cooking up something with a lighter or with a propane.
Oh yeah, I live in Boston, so I'm well aware of it. We got the same thing here. But to Alpha's point about different drugs being cut with fentanyl and you not knowing it.
Yeah.
That is a consequence.
Hey, Randolph. Sorry.
That's a consequence of it being illegal. That's a consequence of it being a black market. And I have a feeling on Tor and these dark webs that even though these markets are still illegal, that there is less of that going on. There's less of people getting their stuff cut with adulterants.
I think that Randolph Richardson could fact check you. Randolph, please come on. Sorry I interrupted you.
No. That was just the only point that I was going to make. Oh. Because since you talked about something I actually know about, or at least someone brought up dark web.
What I was saying, Foss, was that from my understanding, and this is coming from somebody who, like my closest friend is a federal prosecutor for the Central District of California, and for the first 12 years of her life, she worked gang and RICO, you know what I mean, cases, and now she works drugs. And I get this, I'm getting this information from her as cases that she's worked and whatever. And what she was telling me was that the easiest way to get a massive amount of Chinese carfentanil to cut with your drugs, right? Not necessarily where the end sales are going to take place. But she was telling me this is where they're ordering these bricks of carfentanil is through the dark web. And in that case, no, it's pure carfentanil. And it's something that people, manufacturers are buying this, you know what I mean? And then incorporating it into their drugs and selling it wherever the fuck. Probably, as you said, much more on the street than through any digital mechanism.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. The places selling the carfentanil. I wonder if I could be able to find them. Do you know how to spell carfentanil by any chance?
I mean, it's simply fentanyl with with CAR as the prefix. So
Okay, I got it.
yeah, I think it's pretty much spelled like it sounds. But again, it was originally developed as a very, very large, very angry animal tranquilizer. So it had to be super fast acting and a adrenaline antagonist. And it's, of course, it's very tricky to tranquilize an animal for that reason, because of course you give them too much, it kills them. You don't give them enough, and their adrenaline in their bodies can actually work as an antagonist against the sedative. So
All right, well, I'm going to fire up Tor and see if I can find these stores that sell bricks of carfentanil for my next investigative journalism video. Although it's going to have to be an Odyssey exclusive.
You could use the bricks of carfentanil just to stack up so that you could stand on them and then look taller, or maybe look over the fence.
Because I can tell you from what she told me, it began with, you didn't have to use the dark web to order this stuff. You could literally just call a chemical company in China at the right time of day or night, according to how your time zones work, and order it right over the fucking phone. And they showed that procedure on a few investigative journalism pieces on how fentanyl and carfentanil was entering the country. And they're saying it's mostly coming from Chinese chemical companies. There was an ease of acquisition phase, right? Where again, no dark web needed. Now my understanding is that since they slammed the door on that, right? Now the only way to get it is through a different channel.
Well, that's how the whole research chemicals thing works, you know? Any of you guys familiar with that?
No.
No, please do tell.
So research chemicals, or RCs, it's this entire family of drugs, synthetic drugs specifically, where you take a more classic drug like methamphetamine, cocaine, or like THC, LSD, and you modify the molecule just a little bit. Maybe you add like an oxygen atom to it or something like that. And now all of a sudden this new chemical you've created, which has almost the same effects, is not illegal because it's because of legal loopholes it gets past whatever.
How do you add an
DEA.
oxygen molecule?
Chemistry.
Chemistry, yes. But yeah, I think
Obviously.
I've heard what you're talking about here,
I wasn't
sir.
talking about what
He's basically
subset of
talking about
science we're talking about. I'm saying how mechanically, what is the method for adding an oxygen molecule?
Well, you make it different. I mean, I don't know. I can't really walk you like step by step how to cook meth, but there's
No, I don't want to know how to cook. I want to know how to add
there's a process.
an oxygen molecule.
Yeah, so there's a process, okay? And you change something in that process, somewhere or another you introduce oxygen maybe, and now your final product is methamphetamine but with an additional oxygen or hydrogen atom, something like that.
Okay, so that's the flow chart. Now I'd like the pseudocode. And how do you add an oxygen molecule?
Well, I wasn't that good at chemistry, Sidney, so I can't tell you exactly how.
I've got to interrogate you to get an answer out of you.
Foss, are you talking about the cathinone drugs, also known as synthetic cannabis or bath salts, or along these lines?
I think that those would count as well, yeah. I was first introduced to it from somebody that was telling me that they had LSD, but it technically wasn't LSD because it was legal and it was something that you could buy. So it was a modified, in this case, LSD molecule. It's probably illegal now, but yeah, all you have to do is just alter the molecule slightly, and Yeah, there's obviously some trial and error where you can get something.
I don't understand. If you alter a molecule slightly, it becomes something else.
Yes, but it doesn't necessarily have super different effects. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Adderall is amphetamine salt, okay? And then you have methamphetamine, which is another kind of amphetamine. But the molecule of these two drugs is not very different. And as a result, the effects are not very different. In fact, the main difference is, if I'm not mistaken, is just that meth is stronger per milligram.
What is Adderall prescribed
I
for?
thought that meth had been acetylized, and then it puts it into a higher category of drugs for that reason.
But what is Adderall prescribed for?
ADD, I think.
ADD, and also, well, some people get it as a study drug. And no, there's a third condition that they treat for it, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
It's like caffeine, but way stronger, and it actually kind of helps you focus a bit more. Whereas, at least for me, caffeine can give me a lot of energy, but it doesn't necessarily give me focus.
I take my coffee with honey. I can't imagine taking amphetamine or Adderall with a honey and replacing my coffee with Adderall. Nah.
Well, it originally became very popular with soldiers. Like back during World War II, all the soldiers were taking it. It would help them march for days and days.
Yes, they called them pep pills.
Which army was doing this?
Well, definitely Germany. I think they invented it, if I'm not mistaken.
The Germans. They both did it. Because Charles Whitman, the bell tower sniper, was a product of wartime amphetamine addiction. And yeah, and interestingly enough about amphetamines is I think that we're very close to proving this, but it looks like something like 10 or 15% of the population, when taking amphetamines, will go psychotic and will do so very, very fast. So if anybody's sort of ever wondered, why does Americans have so many school shootings? It may be a combination of not just our gun culture, but widespread prescription amphetamine use. It sort of falls through the cracks, as far as what is recorded at the end of a crime.
Let me ask you then, the prescription Adderall, if it's taken as prescribed, could it produce these types of outcomes?
The answer is unequivocally yes. They just can't seem to agree as to what the percentage is yet. The drug companies desperately do not want it to be 10 to 15% of the population, because if that is indeed the case, then we need to start looking at alternative therapies for treating ADD, because that's simply an unacceptable level of negative side effect.
Yes, but you're forgetting that the current situation is much more profitable for the pharmaceutical companies. And so therefore we cannot change the situation because we live in a government. Well, there's only one system of government, and it's aristocracy. So we can't change that because it's going to upset the aristocrats.
Correct.
Good point.
Correct. There was a film that touched on this subject, and it had kind of a curious history, a censorship history on Amazon Prime. But I caught it. It had sort of very quiet release into the stream, and it said, and I believe the original title of this film was Speed Demons Killing for Attention. And it was released under this title for 2 weeks, and then it flat disappeared off of Prime, and I couldn't find it again. And I was like, wow, it was a really well done production.
What's it called? Speed Demons?
It was called Speed Demons : Well, now I'm getting to it. The current title is Speed Demons : Dying for Attention, not killing for attention, but dying for attention. And so it was really re-released almost a year after it was pulled. And I think that the title had absolutely everything to do with it. because one implies homicide, the other implies suicide, and suicidal iterations are not as ugly of a thing to have your drug associated with as somebody who takes your drug and then goes homicidal and sprays a campus with lead. So quite a good film. It investigated the Florida state shootings, and it really went into the background of the young man that did it and his drug history and the clues that he left on the web, where he was clearly becoming disassociative and was hearing voices and was talking about being a handled person or a targeted person or weaponized person, and spoke of handlers that would speak to him and tell him to do things that nobody else could see or acknowledge. So this is the kind of, not just psychosis, but violent psychotic iterations that may be coming from these drugs. And they're completely legal and they're prescribed to treat a condition that, as far as I'm concerned, is not as detrimental to society as somebody who has a psychotic issue,
Yeah, I just found some torrents of it. It came out in 2018, but this particular torrent seems like it may be dead. Trying to find a living torrent of it.
Now, there was a year between showings of the original titled version and the retitled version, but when I watched it, it didn't look like the film itself had been edited. That the point of contention seemed to be strictly with the title, and I would imagine it would have come directly from the PR departments of these drug companies that say, oh, no, this man mentioned drugs that we manufacture by name in his documentary. He cannot call the title of his film Killing for Attention, And so they probably fought over that in legal for a year before they were able to compromise the title and then re-release the film. And he was damn lucky that he got to re-release it at all, considering how controversial the subject is and, coming from such a highly,
Yeah,